Hey guys, what's up? Welcome to another edition of the Spicy Cube. Good to see you here. For anybody who might be here this early, within, the normal people who show up within the first 3 seconds of me starting a stream, hi. So I'm going to bring up the chat log first because it's really convenient to have it on my phone instead of looking over on the site all the time. So I just kind of like it on my phone. It's easier and nicer. For any of you who are in here now who might have been in here last night when I was hanging out with Cinder Shadow, thank you guys for showing up at that. It was the first time I got to do a Minecraft stream. And I did actually do a Minecraft stream with Cinder Shadow in the past, but the only difference was that I wasn't actually streaming it. It was just me talking in the background because I don't know, I felt weird at that time when I was trying to do it. But, I actually went ahead and streamed last night, and I had such a blast. I really hope that Cinder keeps asking me to do these with him because they've been so much fun to do. So look forward to more Minecraft streams in the future. I've got the chat log here, so if any of you want to speak at me, go for it. I see that there are 3 people in here, and it's all good. You guys do you. I'm glad you're all here. Whether you're being a silent lurker or whether you want to be a chatting Cathy, it's all good. I love it. I love it all. Wrath of Wood, my faithful homie, jumping right into the chat, like, immediately. What a boss. Welcome, my friend. Welcome. So, let me take a sip of coffee. I actually just made this nice and fresh about, like, no joke, like 10 or 15 minutes before I even started the stream. I kind of rushed the setup a little bit for my stream today because I was really busy today. It's been a crazy week. I mean, they always say December is a super crazy month and all that, but I had no idea until, like, this particular December because I feel like I've been, go every single day. It's nuts. So let's talk about what's going on today. So today we've done all the colors. We've done white and blue, and black and red and green. I do know that in the first stream I kind of rushed through white and blue, and I feel a little bit bad that I rushed through it. But I'm not going to go backwards because I don't want to spend a whole nother stream, doing all the stuff you guys have already seen. Kind of. I just kind of wish that. Oh, you gotta thank that notification bell? Thank you so much, Wrath of Wood, for not only subscribing, but hitting that bell too. I really appreciate that. You rock, dude. But I really wish I could go over white and blue. I wish I didn't rush it. I wish I parsed it out to 2 streams instead of, like, doing one long stream where I rush through both colors. But as you know, I've been kind of, like, going through each other color nice and slow, like, and kind of talking about how I like it. And it just kind of works out that I can go through, the 50 cards each time, and that can last me about 2 hours. So we did all the 5 colors, and now we're doing the most broken of my collection of cards, I would say, is the artifacts. So I have my pile of artifacts here, and I don't have every crazy, stupid, ridiculous, broken artifact of all time. I mean, there are some that I wish I could get my hands on, but they're so expensive that I can't. But I'm actually totally okay with the collection I've gotten here. In fact, I feel like it's pretty much complete. I have another artifact that I've been wanting to kind of fit in here, but it doesn't quite work based on the balance of the artifacts in the cube. So I think I just keep it as it is. So we're gonna go through this. Let's have a good time here. Let's go ahead and step with me through the historical collection of some of Wizards of the Coast's biggest mistakes of all time. Now, I mean, the top card is not a big mistake of a card, but this card's pretty nice. For anybody who might recognize the artwork, this is Darksteel Pendant, and I actually really like this card a lot. I have been playing with this card since Darksteel itself. If I remember correctly, this was actually... I own about 4 or 5 of these, and because I played pretty heavy in Mirrodin, and I had 4 Darksteel Pendants in a single deck for a period of time. This was, in Darksteel, I ran a deck that had, like, the whole strategy was built around Aether Vials. So I only had 3 Aether Vials, which, like I said, I probably could have acquired more at that time period. Obviously, they're nearly impossible to get now because of how sought after Aether Vial is. But I used to have 3, and I never went out of my way to acquire a 4th one. And I had a whole deck built around getting creatures in for free. And I had Darksteel Pendants. I had 4 Darksteel Pendants in it, and the whole thing the Darksteel Pendant did was it stacked the deck for you really nicely. And it was actually, this card was a key component to that deck because it couldn't be dealt with. And it allowed a lot of setup. Darksteel Pendant, it's a 2-mana artifact. It says Darksteel Pendant is indestructible, and you tap 1 and look at the top card of your library. You may put that card on the bottom of your library. So this card was great. I use this card. Yeah, it is a good filter for cranial plating decks, and I did run. Actually, funny story. I owned a bunch of cranial platings. I actually still have, I think, 2 or 3, or I think I might have 4 copies of cranial plating. They were all copies of cranial plating that I had gotten in Darksteel, and I actually never played with cranial plating in Darksteel, because when I was playing Mirrodin in Darksteel, that was at a very young time in my life. I was like, it was close to the beginning of my my beginning as a Magic player. And as, you know, a noob in Magic, I didn't understand why cranial plating was so good. In fact, actually, I have very distinct memories of personally thinking that cranial plating was a bad card for a long time. And I actually didn't understand how good cranial plating was until I went against the first few Ravager Affinity decks that I had to fight. And first of all, Ravager Affinity definitely traumatized me as an early Magic player, but that was also the decks, like the deck style, that actually taught me how good cranial plating was. Oh wait, I'm not thinking of cranial plating. I'm thinking of skull clamp. I'm sorry, guys. No, cranial plating's always been good. I meant skull clamp. That was me mixing up cards. I used to think Skull Clamp was a bad card, is what I was trying to say. But cranial plating has always been amazing. But what I was trying to say is I didn't understand how good Skull Clamp was until I got my face beaten up with it in a Ravager Affinity deck. Cranial plating's always been good. I also own about like 3 or 4 copies of cranial plating as well. You guys will see them. They're in here, like Skull Clamp and cranial plating. But anyways, this card was a great enabler for a lot of stuff. I still love it to this day, and that's why it's in the cube. It's a great filter. I've used it to great use. One of my best friends, actually, my best friend told me he doesn't like it that much, but I don't listen to his opinion on this particular card because I think this card's amazing. Alright, Wrath of Wood, it's all good. You do your laundry, dude. It's fine. So I'm going to move on from Darksteel Pendant because I talked about that quite a bit because I have a lot of nostalgia for the card. So the next card is, I'm going to push this out of the way just in case my camera gets confused. Next is Obelisk of Alara. I love this card. I actually own 3 copies of this card. The other 2 are in Commander decks that I don't play at all anymore. And I mean, I only need the 1 copy for the cube, so here it is. But I do have 2 others. This card is an absolute stupid, ridiculous powerhouse of a card. This card's amazing. Absolutely amazing. I have seen this card win games multiple times in cube. Bo Falcon, you cracked me up. Welcome to the stream, Bo. Glad to have you in here, my friend. This card, Obelisk of Alara, is absolutely... This card wins games. I've seen it win games on my side. I've seen it win games on my opponent's side. Every time, like, a lot of the time whenever this card comes out, people try to get rid of it as fast as possible because they know that it's going to win a game. And, like, a lot of the time I would say almost all the abilities on here are useful except for the white one. I feel like the white one probably gets used the least amount, but this card kills people. Like, I mean, whether it's the +4/+4 or the 3 damage or the board control with the -2/2, or drawing a card to gain you know, to put yourself forward and get things in your hand easier. This card is absolutely spectacular. It might seem a bit pricey at 6 mana, But even though you have to invest 6 mana in it, it'll always pay off. Like I said, like I've seen this card win games way too many times. Way too many times. Next is Whisper Silk Cloak. This one is from Darksteel. This is another, like, a lot of the Mirrodin cards I've had since I've been, like, a beginner to Magic. Like, they've been around in my life for a long time. Whisper Silk Cloak is an exceptionally powerful piece of equipment. It's a 3 mana with Equip 2, and it says equipped creature is unblockable and can't be the target of spells or abilities. So, I mean, this is great for green. Like, green loves Whisper Silk Cloak because this is like the card that makes it so that, like, your super fragile, you know, beat stick that would win you the game can't be killed by, like, Doomblade or whatever. So, I mean, green loves this card. But like I said, any color loves this card. Like, Whisper Silk Cloak is ridiculous. They printed it at Common in Darksteel, which is, like, another one of those things where it's like, oh my god, what were you thinking? But when it was reprinted multiple times later, they printed it at Uncommon. I do have a few of the other prints. I have a bunch of prints of this card. I have, like, the commons from Darksteel, and I have the uncommons from, like, I think they did one in, like, 10th edition, and I think they did one in, like, M10 or M11 and stuff like that. But this one's my favorite because it's the OG Darksteel, and it's printed at common, and, like, sometimes I like to, like, have copies of, like, cards where it's like, oh yeah, they once thought this was a common, and it was so much more powerful than that. So, great card. It's definitely assisted in enabling games to be won. Okay, so, mind you, I also have to tell you guys before I show you guys the next card, artifacts have the largest amount of proxies in my collection. So, because I've kind of gone over some proxies here and there, you guys are going to see a lot of proxies in my artifact collection. So, this next card is a proxy. This is a Mox Sapphire. It is definitely a proxy. It's not a real Mox Sapphire. I wish it was, but it's not. But for anybody of you out there who don't understand, like, I feel like everybody pretty much understands why Moxes are really strong. But I mean, I guess I can go ahead and tell you guys why it's strong for any noobs out there who've never really understood, like, what a Mox is or whatever. This puts you ahead by 1 for nothing. So, like, and that's a big deal, because, like, one of the things that you always have to keep in mind about, like, mana base and stuff like that, and the turn orders and, like, when turns happen and things like that, is, like, the amount of mana you can collect in any one single turn depends on, like, kind of, like, promotes the idea of how far ahead you are of your opponent. So, like, if it's turn 1 and you have 1 land, and then it's the first turn for your opponent and they put down 1 land, you're at an even standing. Like, you are both on an equal level, you're both progressing at the same rate, like 1 land for the first turn, 2 lands for the second turn, and so on and so on. So, like, anything that is used to give you more land or more mana as fast as it possibly can be is basically like taking extra turns. So, like, when you have, like, Moxes, like a Mox Sapphire or Mox Ruby or whatever, being able to put yourself 1 mana ahead at 0 mana cost for, like, in other words, it costs you nothing to put yourself 1 mana ahead, that's like being a turn ahead. It's basically like sometimes playing a Mox, in a sense, is like playing a 0 mana time walk. Like, it literally it takes you from turn 1 to turn 2 immediately. And that's a big deal. So, I mean, and I'm going to just explain that for this one Mox, because anybody who doesn't understand Mox and why they're so good, that's why. But, I mean, for the other Moxes, I won't really explain that, since that's how all the Moxen are. But, I mean, for playing with Moxen and stuff like that, like, in our cube, it's very common to be, like, on, like, I've seen, like, games where I come out and I'm, like, I have, like, 3 mana on the first turn, which is absolutely insane. And a lot of the time, 9 times out of 10, it's because of the Moxen. Like, it's literally like I'm on turn 3 and my opponent is still on their first turn and they don't know how to deal with that. So, it's kind of a big deal. Moxen are insane. Like I said, I went into detail about this one. This one creates blue mana. 0 mana artifact, tap it for a blue mana. That's what it does. Really great, like, it's a power 9 card, you guys. It's power 9. Like, there's not much reason to question it. I'm gonna drink some more coffee because I'd really like to try and drink it while it's hot, especially because I just brewed it. So good. Quick coffee break. Love coffee. Love it. I drink so much of it. The next card is a metal worker. I'll go ahead and say this is not. This is also a proxy. This is not a real metal worker. Once again, it's another situation where it's like I wish I had a real metal worker, but I don't, and the proxy does just fine. So this is a 3-mana 1/2 artifact creature, and it says tap it, reveal any number of artifact cards in your hand. Add 2 colorless mana to your mana pool for each card revealed this way. This card is absolutely insane. It's so powerful. Like, I mean, I've definitely had, like, I kind of told you guys a while ago, way back in the first stream when I was, hey Cassie, thank you for joining us. Thank you for coming on in. Today we are looking at my cube and cards in the cube, and these are the artifacts, so we're looking at really powerful cards here. So I think I told you guys a while ago when we were looking through, in the first stream when we were talking about white cards, I showed you guys a card called Martyr of Sands. And I was telling you guys a story about how my friend used to think that Martyr of Sands was not a good card because he didn't like the idea of revealing cards from your hand to give away your strategy just to gain life. And he had to actually have some time to play with the card in order to realize how strong it actually was. Like every one white card you throw up, you gain 3 life, and that's a big deal. Oh, Castle, you got back from school. Very nice. Glad you can hop in and join us. We're having a good time here. And you're not all that late in my stream either. Like, we basically just started. So this is another card that is kind of like the York Peppermint Patty Hot Chocolate. I have actually a bag full of Andy's Mints Man Cave. Oh, and by the way, Man Cave, hi. Thank you for joining. I like it that the first comment you leave is all about peppermint hot chocolate. But this is another card that kind of tests your ability as a player with, like, the idea of, like, you know, yeah, you have to worry that you're revealing your strategy to your opponent, but at the same time, like, if you play this card right, you shouldn't be afraid of the cards you're revealing. Like, all you have to do is just remember that there are cards that you do want to show, and there are cards that you don't want to show. And I mean, most of the time, the cards that you do show, you don't mind showing your opponent because he probably already can, you know, find a way. Either you're so far ahead of him that it doesn't matter already, or you can plan around the fact that he has that knowledge. And then all the meanwhile, you're accelerating into, like, your mana accelerating into whatever you've revealed anyways. So it's not that big of a tell if you can, you know, tap him, reveal some artifact cards, gain extra mana, and then immediately play those artifact cards. Like, he's a very much kind of a one-card combo a little bit, and you kind of, well, I mean, that's not true because you need other cards for him to work right, but he's a big deal, and he's really not, like, there's not really anything bad about this guy. Highly recommend it. Even in the fact that this is a cube where you're playing with lots of colors, he still does great with the colorless mana. He's so worth it. Great card. Love playing with it. Like I said, lots of proxies in this particular cube, so, yeah, multicolored's going to be the next stream for the cube, Wild Goat. I'm doing these based on color order, so I have, like, I did all the monocolors, then we're doing the colorless, and then I do gold cards. Yeah, save the best for, well, technically the lands are last, so we'll do the lands at the very end. But yeah, I promise you we'll do multicolored next time. So this is another proxy, and it's a very powerful proxy. This is Force Field, and it's a 3-mana artifact that says you tap 1, and you lose only 1 life to an unblocked creature. So, and this is really interesting because there's some really weird rules about this card. The first thing that's super important is that when it says lose only 1 life, it's actually errated to 1 damage. Which is a major, major deal. Like, that's very important because in Magic, it's impossible to prevent loss of life. There are no cards that actually, if I remember correctly, there are no cards that prevent loss of life. There are plenty of cards that prevent loss of damage, like, you know, taking damage and all that. But this card was later errated to say you lose only, like, when you take damage specifically, not based on loss of life specifically. So this card is very strong. I've seen games come to a halt because of this card. I've had plenty of games where I was losing, and I would have this card out, and I would only be losing 1 life per turn instead of like 5 or 6 or 10 life a turn. And because this card kept me alive, I would come back and win the game. So it's a big deal. It definitely, like, people get scared of it. People definitely try to destroy it. It's very, very powerful. Highly recommend trying to get your hands on. I know it's an expensive card, so I mean, if you can settle for a proxy and get your hands on a proxy, I would definitely recommend it. Next is a Darksteel Colossus. I love this card. I absolutely, this is probably one of my like top favorite like ridiculous favorite artifact cards of all time. Darksteel Colossus is a ridiculous card. It's an 11 mana 11/11 with trample, and it's indestructible, and it said if this card would be put into a graveyard from anywhere, you may reveal it and shuffle it into its owner's library instead. This card's nuts, absolutely nuts. I have cheated this card out so many times in games of Cube. I have cheated it off of a Tinker. I've cheated it off of Tooth and Nail. I've cheated it out with Master Transmuter. Like, I don't think there's been a single game where I've ever paid the full 11 mana to get Darksteel Colossus out, ever. This card's amazing. It's great for winning games. And I mean, you know, admittedly, like, it kind of sucks when you have to hold it in your hand and you can't do anything with it. But I mean, that's the price you have to pay for playing with a card like this sometimes. And I mean, I've had more games where this card comes out than games where it doesn't come out. Like, there's almost always a way to cheat this guy into play, and it's a lot of fun. Great card. I never got my hands on an original Darksteel printing of it. Didn't get it when I was playing Darksteel, never bothered to buy it. But I did actually crack this in an M10 booster pack, so I kind of like it for that reason. Like, that's what makes me like it. Okay, so this one's a proxy. This is a Soul Ring proxy. Bo Falcon says, I always think of the Iron Giant movie when I see the Colossus. Yeah, he does kind of have that Iron Giant look to him. It kind of, he's got those cute little white eyes and all that. Like, he does kind of look like an Iron Giant. So, I gotta say, this is a proxy, but I do actually own a bunch of Soul Rings. None of them are with the original art. I think I own like 3 Commander copies of Soul Ring, just based from buying Commander decks. And I mean, the art that they did for the Soul Rings for the Commander decks are really nice. Like, I think they look great. But I really love this old school Ring of Fire art. Like, it's kind of my favorite. So, even though it's a proxy, I prefer to play with this over my real copies simply because I like the art and I like the old school look to it. So I don't really mind the fact that this is a fake card, because it just looks nicer. So Soul Ring is ridiculous. It's a 1 mana artifact that creates 2 colorless mana. There have been plenty of arguments in the past that this card should be considered number 10 in the Power 9. People sometimes say, like, oh, it's the 10th card in the Power 10. It's like, well, yeah. I mean, I can understand why people feel that way and all that, but, I mean, I don't know. It's a great card. It's really great. There's nothing bad you can say about this. It's like the pinnacle of mana rocks, you know? So it's a great card, and it's a lot of fun to play with, and it's bogus. Like, I've seen games where, you know, you could play a Moxen and then play a Soul Ring and play your land, and then you're ahead by 4. And it's like, I'm going to play this turn 4 spell now. Good luck. Like, you know, and a lot of the time, like, that's something to think about, too, is that, like, people, like, have to keep in mind that, like, spells that cost between 4 to 5 mana are usually spells that are used to end the game, you know? Like, to have game-winning spells. So, like, casting stuff on turn 4 or turn 5, like, on the first... I mean, casting turn 4 and turn 5 spells on, like, the first couple of turns can get absolutely ridiculous. And I've seen games end in, like, 2 or 3 turns because of cards like this. It's nuts. Oh, I love this card. This is a Steel Hellkite. This is a promotional Mirrodin foil of Steel Hellkite. I actually own like a normal steel Hellkite. I bought this special for the cube. Um, isn't Library of Alexandria considered the 10th power card? At least I thought it used to be. That's what Bo Falcon says. I don't know. I mean, I guess. But I mean, then you could easily say, well, what about Tabernacle of Pendrell Vale? You know? Or what about, I don't know, other cards? Like, there's so many cards that are so strong. Like, anybody can easily say, well, what about Berserk? You know, Berserk is a really crazy strong green card, and it's like bonkers and wins games and blah, blah, blah. And it's like, yeah, I don't know. I mean, that's why I don't take the whole thing of like, oh, it's not the power 9, it's really a power 10. It's like, no, it's just the power 9, and like, you know, you can have your opinions about really bonkers powerful things, but, you know, it's, you know, that's just what it is. Um, Anyways, yeah, this is a Steel Hellkite. This is a promotional foil from Mirrodin. I bought this special. I do own an actual normal Steel Hellkite, but I love Steel Hellkite so much that I bought this, and it only cost me like $2 or $3, which was really cool. This card wins games single-handedly. It's a 6-mana, 5/5 dragon artifact creature, flying, has fire breathing for 2 colorless mana, and it also has a destroy each. It says pay X. Destroy each non-land permanent with converted mana cost X whose controller was dealt combat damage by Steel Hellkite this turn. Activate this ability only once each turn. This guy wins games. I've seen it plenty of times. This guy is also very prone to removal. People get very scared of him very, very quickly. But I have seen him, like even though like he's very prone to removal, I've seen this guy get on the board and stick, like, and not be dealt with. And I've seen that happen on my side of the board, and I've seen that happen on my opponent's side of the board. So this is a great, great card. Don't, like, the whole permanent destruction thing is so absolutely insanely strong, especially on a colorless beat stick, you know, like an evasive beat stick. Like, this card's not to be trifled with. And I hear that this card's really popular in Commander as well. I think I used to have mine in a Commander deck before I put it in the cube, and then I replaced the one in my cube with this one. And I mean, I can easily understand why it's considered so good in Commander, which makes me wonder why it's such a cheap card. I think you can get this card for like $2 or $3. Even this foil was not very expensive. I think this foil was like $3 or $4, I think. So, you know, if you guys like the crazy beat sticks, like, you know, Steel Hellkite, like, get one, because it's really great, it's really strong, and it's very cheap in price. Next is a, like I said, we're not going to get too heavy on these Moxen, because they're all basically the same. This is a Mox Emerald, 0 mana artifact, creates green mana. Amazing for all the reasons that we know Moxen are amazing for. So, you know, there it is. It's a proxy. I wish it was real, but it's not, so we're going to move on. Next is, this card cracks me up. I love this card. Mirror Battlesphere. Mirror Battlesphere is such an interesting card in the cube. So, it's a 7-mana 4/7, and it says, when Mirror Battlesphere enters the battlefield, put 4 1/1 colorless Mirror artifact creature tokens onto the battlefield. Whenever Mirror Battlesphere attacks, you may tap X untapped Mirror you control. If you do, Mirror Battlesphere gets +X/+0 until end of turn and deals X damage to defending player. So, there's some interesting stuff about this card. First of all, this card has killed me. I told you guys a story about it, where I cast this card, like, I played this card, and it actually killed me. The person who cast it killed me. And it was stupid. It was such a stupid play. It was when my opponent had a, what's it called? I always forget the name of it. It's the cleric that drains life whenever creatures come into play. It's a white card. It's a white card that says whenever creatures you control enter the battlefield, you gain 1 life. And it says whenever creatures enter the battlefield under the opponent's control, the opponent loses 1 life. And it's a really strong white creature from New Phyrexia. And I one time forgot that my opponent had it on the battlefield, and I cast Mirror Battlesphere. And Mirror Battlesphere hit me for like 4... I lost 4 life to it, and it killed me. Because I was at, I was basically at, 4 life, pretty much, and, No, it hit me for 5, not 4. I was at like 5 life, or 5 or 4 life, something like that. And I cast this because I forgot that he had that cleric on the battlefield, and me casting this killed me, which really sucked. But ignoring that one particular story, this card's really strong. I mean, it's a big, big, beefy artifact creature, and it also makes a bunch of tokens. And it's really nice because if you cast this and then somebody blows it up, because it's pretty threatening. If somebody blows it up, you still get 4 1/1 mirror tokens. So I mean, it kind of feels okay in that sense. Like if somebody blows it up, you still get to keep your little mirror guys, which makes you feel a little safer when you cast it and it could die. Suture Priest, thank you, Bo Falcon, much appreciated. I just always forget the name of that card, but it's so strong. But yeah, this card's great. Makes a lot of tokens. It can hit for a lot of damage. It can also get +X and deal X damage, and it's pretty nuts. Like, I mean, it's pretty fun to like be able to attack with this. Tap your 4 little mirror tokens, and it becomes an 8/7, and it also deals 4 damage to the player as well. So 4 and 8, which is 12 damage total. I mean, a potential 12 damage total. It's a great card. It's a lot of fun. And it's just a silly creature. Like, I mean, the art on it is hilarious. It's like a giant ball made of... a giant sphere made out of mirror, and it's like rolling around. It's like a snowball effect, and I don't know. I like it. It's a cute card. It's pretty funny. Next is... Oh, I love this card. This is Icy Manipulator. So this is a special promotional Icy Manipulator from Ice Age. And I bought this special because I love Icy Manipulator. I had Icy Manipulator in my cube from the beginning, but I replaced it with this really nice, fancy Icy Manipulator from Ice Age. And I was really happy that I found this particular foil version of Icy Manipulator because this has my favorite art. Now, I know most people like the icy sphere look to the Icy Manipulator, but I love the classic Bone Crank from Ice Age. Like, there's nothing spherical about this whatsoever. Ratherwood says, oh, WTF, that Icy is so nicey. Yeah, this is my favorite. Like I said, it's a foil, and the art is so crazy. Like, the art on this card is amazing. I love it. It's so evocative, and it has so much going on in it. It's got it's like a weird machine that's like producing ice, and it's using like skeletons and dead bodies and machinery. It looks like something out of like old school Phyrexia, which I love. Like, I love Phyrexian stuff. So it definitely reminds me of like an old school kind of Phyrexian feeling to it, which is why I love it so much. Oh, and I should probably say what the card does. It's a 4-mana artifact, and it says, pay 1, tap Icy Manipulator, tap target artifact, creature, or land. This card is absolutely oppressive. Like, I mean, I've seen this, like, tap down lands that people really need. I've seen it tap down beat sticks to keep you alive. I've seen it tap down artifacts that are potentially extremely dangerous. Like, this card is basically like a all-star, MVP card. Like, it just does everything you need it to do to keep you safe and comfortable. So, and the other thing that I love about this card is the flavor text. The flavor text says, let me see if I can get it to zoom. The scavengers who first found it called it the Bone Crank. Not a bad name, I'd say. Arkham Dagsum Soldevi Machinist. So that's why me and my friends, like, because of this art and this flavor text, that's why me and my friends, we call it the Bone Crank. We don't call it simply the Icy Manipulator. This isn't just an Icy Manipulator. This is the goddamn Bone Crank. And with a name like that, you should fear it, because it is very strong. So definitely get your hands on an Icy Manipulator if you're playing Cube. It's very, very strong. It'll never, ever let you down. I've never seen this card come down and not do tons and tons of work. It's absolutely amazing. And I love that version, too, because it's the Ice Age with the foil, which I absolutely adore. Coffee time. Alright. So now we got another proxy. This is a Candelabra of Tawnos. It's from Ice Age. Does Ice Age even have foils? No. So actually, interestingly enough, Wrath of Wood. Ice Age does not have foils. This was done as a special promotional thing. If I remember correctly, it was like a promotional thing for like a magazine, I think. It was either a magazine or a book. And I think it might be really hard to see it. Like, if you look at the little set symbol right there, there's a D. It's like a D with a sword. Like the main part of the D is a sword, and then there's the loop around it. It's for like a magazine. It was like some kind of special promotional event for like a magazine or a book or something. I can't remember exactly what it was, but it's very nice. And they ran it as it was a foil that was done way, way, way after Ice Age. This printing was made in 2001. So that kind of gives you a, like, which was obviously way after Ice Age. So it was a special promotional event done way after Ice Age for like a magazine or a book or something. And it was printed in 2003. So they were doing foils then, but they weren't doing foils during Ice Age. But I love it. I love the card. I don't even care that it's not even an original Ice Age print. It's the fact that it has the Ice Age art with the Ice Age flavor text, and it's a foil, which is exactly what I wanted. So anyways, this is a proxy. This is a Candelabra of Tawnos, which is very strong. It's a 1-mana artifact that says pay X mana, untap X separate lands. So this card is like, there's a lot of people who would say like, oh, well, like, Candelabra of Tawnos is only good if you have specific cards that work functionally with it. Because you need to have special kinds of lands and things like that to get a lot of utilization out of a Candelabra of Tawnos. And some people would think like, oh, well, that's so limiting because, you're playing in a cube and everything's singleton. So, oh, it's Deckmasters Garfield versus Finkel. Okay, thank you, Bo Falcon. I thought it was like a magazine or book or something like that, but yeah, that would make sense. There's actually another Deckmasters promo foil card that I really want to get my hands on, but I should have bought it way earlier because it used to be really cheap, and then it jumped in price like crazy recently. They have a foil version of Necropotence from those special decks. And when I was originally looking at it, it was about like 16 or 17 bucks. And I didn't buy it right away because I was like, oh, maybe it'll go down. And then something changed and it boosted to $40. And I was like, oh my god, from like $16 to $40? I don't know if I'm ever going to get my hands on this. But I still keep it in my watch list because I want to eventually own the foiled Necropotence from the dual decks, the Deckmasters. Anyways, this card's amazing because I own in my cube, and you guys will see it when we get into the land cycle. I own one copy of every single Ravnica double land. All of the Ravnica double lands that make like 2 of each one color. So like the Celestia like makes a white and a green. The Azorius makes like a white and a blue. The Rakdos makes a black and a red. I own a single copy of every single one of those lands in the cube. And it pretty much, like, every time we play cube, we always get at least 2 or 3 of them. So, like, knowing that you build a deck and you get, like, 2 or 3 of them, the Candelabra of Tawnos makes a big impact. Because you can say, like, tap them all down, and then pay 3 mana, and then untap those lands, and then you have access to 6 mana. And potentially, you can combo into it and do all sorts of crazy stuff. So the Candelabra of Tawnos always stays in the cube. It's never a bad card. I don't think I've ever seen this card be bad before. So it's great. It's definitely a very awesome, powerful card. And it is, like I said, it's a proxy. It's not real. It'd be cool if it was, but it's not. Dude, yeah, the shiny Necropotence from the Deckmasters is amazing. Wrath of Wood. And by the way, Wrath of Wood, like, if you didn't know, it's worth like $40. Like, there was a time period, like, it was literally like a year and a half ago. It was only worth like 16 or 15 bucks. And I was like really like constantly debating whether or not I wanted to buy one because I was like, oh, that's like that's kind of expensive for my buying of like Magic cards. So I was like constantly throwing it around. It was staying in my buy list for a really long time. And then something happened within the last year. I don't know what it was. Like it's got to be like something changed about card prices or the supply or something. But it jumped from 15 or $16 to $40 a piece. And I was like, "Oh my god, I got to get my hands on one eventually, but I don't know if I can dish out $40 for it." Maybe someday. We'll see. We'll see. The next card is Lightning Greaves. This card's amazing. I used to have some original prints from Mirrodin, but I lost them all. Oh, you got it $20 Canadian years ago? That's really worth it, Wrath of Wood. That's super worth it. That's a great price for that card, considering how much it's worth now. And when I say $40, I mean $40 American. So you'd probably have to figure out. It's probably worth more than 40 in Canadian though. Lightning Greaves is an amazing card. I used to own a couple copies from Mirrodin, but I lost all of them. I don't know where they all went. I would assume that I probably gave them away because I do that with Magic cards a lot. But this is one from the Arch Enemy set. It's fine. Like, I mean, it would be way more swagger to have one from Mirrodin, but this one does just fine. And it's from Arch Enemy, and it's a 2-mana equipment that says equipped creature has Shroud and Haste, equipped for 0. This card is fantastic. It often can help end games, especially when like you put down your beat stick, and then unless your opponent has a way to respond to your beat stick, like right then, you can simply put the boots on the beat stick immediately, and it can no longer be targeted, and it's coming in for direct damage immediately. Like, well, I mean, not direct damage, but you know what I mean. It's coming in for an attack right away, and you guys know how I feel about haste. I love haste. I think it's like one of the best mechanics, because it makes something that is dangerous next turn, it makes something that's dangerous next turn into an immediate threat, and it has to be dealt with immediately. So that's why I love haste so much. So this card's great. Definitely try playing with it. No, I'm positive, Bo Falcon. I've seen, like, I'm dead serious that it's, like, they do have the From the Vault with the different art, but they do, like, go online and look up, like, the Deckmaster's Necropotence. It's like a foil, and it has the original, the skull art, which is, like, classic. I really, like, I'm not gonna lie, I really want them to, like, I think it would be so much better if they reprinted the, Necropotence in the, like, modern border with, the original skull art. They need to do that. It's so good. Rat's Necro? Oh, okay. Well, I mean, the Necropotence from the Vault and the Necropotence from the modern Master sets, they're all around $20. They're not as expensive as the Deckmaster's foil version. Deckmaster's foil version's like $40, and I know this because I was literally looking at the price tag of it like a couple of days ago. Every once in a while, every couple of weeks, I go through my buy list and see if there's anything that I might be willing to kind of throw some money at. But it's still at $40, and I just can't afford that. Okay, so the next card is a card that is crazy, crazy, stupid, powerful, strong, and we were talking about it a little bit earlier. This is Skull Clamp. This card is absolutely powerhouse, ridiculous, broken artifact bullshit. This card is famous for being one of the single most powerful pieces of equipment ever printed. It's absolutely broken. I mean, it's like, this card is like the definition of like card advantage right here. So, it's a 1-mana artifact equipment. Equipped creature gets +1/-1, and it says whenever equipped creature is put into a graveyard, you draw 2 cards. And then it's got an equip cost of 1. I've seen throughout my entire history of this card, like, I kind of told you guys a story a little bit earlier about how when I was really young, I didn't understand how Skull Clamp worked, and I actually thought it was a bad card, and it took me some time to learn how extremely obscenely powerful this card is. And most of that process of me learning how powerful this card was me getting beaten in the face by it multiple times. This card is so strong, and if they banned it, like they banned Skull Clamp, only shortly after it was printed. Like if I remember correctly, in Darksteel, they basically had like they released Darksteel, and then they did a ban announcement shortly after they released Darksteel, and they were like, whoa, 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 we made a huge mistake. We need to ban Skull Clamp like immediately. And it was a big deal because nobody really got to play with it that much in like tournament play or anything like that. But originally, in the very beginning stages of it, like before they did any hardcore tournaments, this did take over Friday Night Magic for a short period of time. Like everybody was running Skull Clamp. Like white decks were like white and blue control was running Skull Clamp. Suicide Black was running Skull Clamp. Green Beat Stick was running Skull Clamp. Like everything was running Skull Clamp. It was so stupid powerful. And this card is still a testament of power to this day. Like even playing with it in the cube, it gets ridiculous. Like, I mean, like we were looking at Mirror Battlesphere. What would make Mirror Battlesphere better? What if you played a Mirror Battlesphere and had a Skull Clamp, and then you sacrificed 4 Mirror tokens for 4 mana to draw 8 cards? So what's better than a Mirror Battlesphere? A Mirror Battlesphere and 8 cards. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it's ridiculous. And the real thing that makes this card obscenely strong is actually the -1 toughness. And a lot of people don't realize that when they first see it. The -1 toughness is what makes this card obscenely powerful, and it's so funny because the story about Skull Clamp is all about the fact that the whole thing about Skull Clamp and why it has the -1 toughness was it was actually a preventative measure. Like basically, Wizards of the Coast was releasing this card, and they had play tested it a bit, and it used to have +1/+1, and they were like, oh, this is like a really strong card. Like, maybe it's too powerful. And they're like, well, what can we do to make it a little less powerful? And they're like, I know. Let's take the +1 toughness and turn it into a -1 toughness, and that way people won't really want to play with it as much because it might kill their creatures. And they're like, oh yeah, that's a good idea. And they're like, should we play test it? No, 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 we won't play test it. We play tested it enough when it was +1/+1 and it was fine. It was just really strong. And what they didn't realize is that it went from being really strong to being obscenely stupid, broken strong, all because of the -1 toughness on the card. It's so funny how that teeny tiny change, that teeny tiny little tweak in the card, is what makes this card from being really strong to being absolutely broken. So, great, powerful card. Fun fact about Skull Clamp. So, you can also buy these for like less than $1, I think. Because they're uncommon, they're everywhere, and they're banned in like everything. So, like, you can pick these up for like $1 or $2. But foil Skull Clamps are like $60 or $80. Like, it's so weird because you can look up a regular Skull Clamp and it's like $1 or $2, and then you look up a foil Skull Clamp and it's like 60 or 80 bucks. It's ridiculous. I wanted to try and find one, a foil one for my cube, but they're so obscenely expensive because they're really powerful, and foils are sought after, and even though it's banned in like everything, it's like, well, collectors still want to collect one of the most powerful artifacts ever printed in the best condition and nicest appearance that they possibly can. So it's great. Bo Falcon says, I'm just trying to make sure we all know which one is which. I know the Deckmaster's foil is around 40, but the Vault Exiled is in the 20s. It's all good. Wild Goat says, so Cube promotes banned cards? Yeah, so Wrath of Wood, I don't know if you've heard me talk about this, but the thing is that I play with banned cards in my cube because one of the things you have to keep in mind about the cube is in my cube, and I mean it's not necessarily true for other people's cubes, but in my cube, everything is singleton. There's only a single copy of every single card. So the fact that there's only singles of every single card actually balances out the most powerful cards in the cube. Because, if you're like, it's very common for us to be, me and my friends, playing like 75 card decks. It's like around 70 to like 80 is like the common number of cards we play with in a single deck whenever we play cube. And it's like, yeah, there's banned cards like Skull Clamp, but it's one card out of like 79 cards. And the thing is that like if you can get your hands on it, it's a powerhouse and it's amazing. But you're not going to combo out with like 4 copies of Skull Clamp. It's never going to happen. Like because first of all, there aren't 4 copies of Skull Clamp, and second of all, you're depending on the idea that you're going to get one card out of like 80 cards that you're expecting to like play with and be crazy with. So banned cards are not a problem in Cube, like especially not in my Cube, because the fact that it's a single copy is literally one of the most important forms of balance in the Cube. It makes it so that you can't combo off like crazy. Let's see. Ratherwood says, mine has the D on it. It used to cost less. People at my LGS thought it was trash. No, Ratherwood. It's worth a fortune now. I think they got smart. Like, I don't know what changed, but like I said, it used to be like a $15 card, which I should have bought it when it was a $15 card. And I waited and waited and waited, and then it jumped to $40 because it's a great card, and it's collectible, and it's awesome. So yeah, like, hold on to it, because you know what? Cards like that, they just keep going up in price, you know? And I mean, don't even think about it necessarily as like, you know, like, oh, it's worth all this money. I would play with it. Like, honestly, if I owned a copy of the foil Necropotence from the Deckmasters, I would probably slap it in a deck. It sadly would not make it into the cube because Necropotence is triple black, and I don't allow triple color costs. So it would sadly never make it into my cube, but I'd throw it in something, maybe like an EDH deck or something. Bo Falcon says, okay, yes, then yours is the Deckmasters. Yeah. Ratherwood says, do it. I have one anti-card in my queue. Yeah, I mean, I don't do anti, because we don't use anti-rules. I mean, I do own some anti-cards that are legitimate copies of really cool anti-cards. Like, my favorite is Contract from Below. I own a copy of Contract from Below. And I was thinking maybe at one point, like, I was like, well, maybe I'll put in Contract from Below and just eliminate the anti-rules and just make it into a draw 7. But then I realized, no, like, that's way too obscenely powerful, and there's no, like, drawback to it. It's literally, like, a way better, like, Ancestral Recall. Like, there's no reason for it. So I never did it. Cube format doesn't worry about the degenerate combos from most banned cards. Yeah, it's true. It's because there's tons of answers and it's singleton. It balances a lot of stuff. Problem cards are good in constructed. Spicy Cube is different. Yeah, exactly. Well, I mean, one of my thought process, too, is that if people start getting more and more into Cube, I think prices could fluctuate in the future. You never know. Especially with, like, banned cards. So the next card is Aether Spellbomb. I love this card. I love the Spellbomb cards from Mirrodin. This is a foil from Mirrodin. I actually want to own foils of all the cards, all the Spellbombs from Mirrodin, but sadly I only own foils of Aether Spellbomb. And I don't even own all the Spellbombs. I only own the red ones and the blue ones because I used to have a deck that used the red ones and blue ones a long time ago, which is why I have these. But I don't have the green one, the white one, or the black one. And the black one is great. The red one and green one are kind of meh, but they're also still... well, I mean, the green one and the white one are also kind of good, but they're also kind of meh. But anyways, yeah, this card's amazing. I love the Aether Spellbomb. I actually personally think it's like one of the best Spellbombs ever printed. There's some argument on, like, there's some, you know, people sometimes argue that the red one is the best one. The red one also has a higher price to it. But I love the blue one. The blue one I think is the best because it's an unsummon on an artifact, and you can also use it to draw cards, which is really nice. And a lot of the time, like, if you see an Aether Spellbomb and, like, somebody uses it, it's not gone forever. Like, they'll get it back. Like, there's so many ways to get Aether Spellbomb back into your hand, it's ridiculous. So... And yeah, it is a foil. I really like it a lot as a foil. It's definitely beautiful. I think all the Spellbombs look amazing as foils, and that's why I want to eventually own all, like, the entire cycle of them. But the red one is, like, the most expensive, if I remember correctly, because it's, most people love it because it's a colorless shock, and that's what makes the red Spellbomb. I think it's called, like, Periite Spellbomb or something like that. But that's what makes the Periite Spellbomb so strong, is that it's a colorless shock. So yeah, this is a 1-mana artifact. that says pay a blue, sacrifice it, you can return a creature to its owner's hand. And the other ability says pay one of any color or one colorless, sacrifice it, draw a card. So this card's great. I love it. Someday I'll probably try to own all of them, but for right now, the blue one and the red one is just fine for me. Yeah, Pyrite Spellbomb. I thought I remembered that relatively right. So this is a Mana Vault. I love this card for a lot of reasons, not necessarily because it's just a strong card. So first of all, this is not a proxy. This is a real Mana Vault. I've had this, I think it's like 4th edition, which means it's not worth a lot of money. I'm pretty sure this is a 4th edition Mana Vault. But I absolutely adore this card because, first of all, it's really strong. It's a 1-mana artifact that says when it comes into play, it does not untap during your untap phase. At the end of your upkeep, if it is tapped, it deals 1 damage to you. You have to pay 4 mana to be able to untap Mana Vault at the end of your upkeep. Use this ability only during your upkeep. And then it says tap it, and you can add 3 colorless mana to your mana pool. So, obviously it's really strong. You know, you pay 1, and you can pay, you can tap it to pay 3 mana. I've used this card plenty of times. And I've had the reason why I love this card so much is it means a lot to me for multiple different reasons. The first reason that I love this card is I've told this story a couple times. A long time ago, I had a whole bunch of Magic cards stolen from me, and I was really upset about it, and I thought I was never going to be able to recover, and I was wondering if maybe I should just stop playing Magic altogether. And this was a long time ago. This was when I was like a kid. And I met a guy who was a judge, and he was super nice, and he played a bunch of games of Magic with me. And I told him my whole story. Like, he let me borrow decks to fight him, and, you know, I only had, like, a few cards at hand, and I was really upset. And I played a bunch of games with him. He was a really nice guy, and he liked talking about Magic. And we had a lot of fun playing together. And so this was at my card shop, and he was like, you know what, listen, are you going to be at this card shop tomorrow? I was like, yeah, like, I'll come by, and I'll play with you again. He's like, cool, okay, like, meet me here tomorrow, and we'll play some more games together. And I was like, okay. So the next day I came back to that card shop, and I met the guy again, and he brings this gigantic box, like a huge, huge box full of Magic cards. And, like, he basically, like, pushed the box over to me. He's like, here, these are all yours now. And, like, he gave me, like, this huge, like, it was a gigantic, like, you know, box. Like, it was a big rectangular box full of Magic cards, and he just gave them all to me. And he was like, here, you can have these now. Like, I don't need them, and they're all yours, and you can enjoy them. And, like, he was such a cool guy. And we even, like, went through all the cards, and he taught me a bunch of stuff about them that I didn't know as an early Magic player. And this was one of the cards in that collection that he gave me. And the thing is that he actually went out of his way to, like, pull this card aside, and he went so deep into explaining to me why this card was so strong. And, like, mind you, I was probably about, like, 12 or 13 years old, something like that. So I didn't really, like, understand, like, you know, mana rocks and card value and things like that. So he, like, went step by step to explain to me, like, why this card was so good. And I never forgot that. It actually changed my life as a Magic player. And so I kept this card, and I held on to it pretty much all throughout the years. And it was basically a point of where, like, one of the nicest people I ever met, you know, hooked me up with a bunch of free cards, and he gave me some really powerful ones, including the Mana Vault. And on top of that, him giving me this card taught me really complex Magic strategy. Like, he taught me all the reasons why this card was so strong, and I never understood that until he explained it to me. So that's why this card is so important to me. Like, it is a very powerful card, and I do love playing with it in my cube, but I also have a lot of nostalgia for it. You know, a really good-hearted person gave me this card, and that same good-hearted person also taught me some of the most valuable lessons about playing the game of Magic that I'd ever learned in my entire life. And a lot of it he did with this specific card. So I hold this very near and dear to my heart. It's very important to me. And it's great to play with. It kicks ass. Like, it's a great mana rock. 1995 is 4th, 1997 is 5th. This has a... Oh, it's 5th edition. Okay, so it's... My bad, Bo Falcon. It's not 4th edition, it's 5th edition. It has a 97 on there. But even so, I don't care what edition it is. That one specific card, like, I don't own any other copies of Mana Vault. That's the only copy I own. And it's from 5th edition, and I have so much nostalgia for it. Like, I absolutely love that card, and I really appreciate what that guy did for me all those years ago. Next is Paradise Mantle. This is another really fantastic mana rock. I mean, it's a piece of equipment. It's a 0 mana artifact equipment from 5th Dawn, and it says it's got equip for 1, and it says equip creature has add 1 mana of any color to your mana pool. So this card is great because it turns any creature that you have the ability to use it on into a Birds of Paradise. And like, sometimes this card can come out and do nothing for a long time. Like, it does happen. Like, I've actually equipped it to creatures, and, like, the game would end up being that the creature that I equip it on doesn't get used for mana because it's either needed for offense or defense. That does happen. But it's also very common for, like, me to have creatures where, like, oh, I'm not doing anything with this creature anymore. Well, I'll slap a Paradise Mantle on it, and now it's a land, you know? So, like for example, like if I cast like a Sage of Epiteer or something like that, and it, you know, filters through 4 cards, which is really nice, but then it just sits there as like a little 1-mana 1/1 doing nothing. You slap a Paradise Mantle on it, and now you have it fixing you, you know, mana fixing you. So this card's fantastic. I've owned this for a long time, all the way back from 5th Dawn. It's got beautiful art on it too. This is what is that? Greg Hildebrandt. Never heard of that artist before. I've never heard of that guy. But I do love the art on it. It's very, very beautiful art. And the lady is looking mighty, mighty fine. Look at that. Look at that. Damn, girl. Dude, that girl has some tiggle biddies, you know? She is looking damn fine. Great artifact. Great art. Wonderful to play with. I mean, like I said, sometimes it's hit or miss, but I feel like it does a lot of work and it's not a big deal. Paradise Mantle goes with Kiln Fiend. That's a good use of it, Wrath of Wood. I actually never would have thought of that. I don't think I've ever equipped one. I mean, Kiln Fiend is in the cube. But I don't think I've ever put a Paradise Mantle on it before. That's a good idea. Hildebrandt is amazing. Oh, okay. Well, I mean, I don't immediately recognize their name. But I mean, I'm sure they've done plenty of stuff that probably looks great. This one is pretty notoriously famous. Here is the Black Lotus. It is a proxy. It's a proxy, guys. This is a proxy card. It's not real. It's a proxy. It's a Black Lotus proxy. There's a lot of interesting stuff about this card. So first of all, for anybody who hasn't heard me tell stories about this card, me and my friends have a nickname for the Black Lotus. We call her the Fickle Bitch. Because it's really hard to get this card to work right, surprisingly. Like, you would think it would be pretty straightforward and it would be amazing, but not in a cube. I mean, because a lot of the time, like, people are like, when they think of how powerful this card is, they think of, like, an idea of, like, oh, a deck would run, like, 4 of those, or maybe you're running, like, you know, a mono blue stasis deck and you have your 1 copy and you need it and you reuse it and all this stuff. Or maybe you use Black Lotus with Yawgmoth's Will so you can use it over and over again. And that's not the case. Like, I mean, not in the cube. Like, the cube will shatter your dreams of what makes a Black Lotus seem so great. And like I said, we call her the Fickle Bitch because you never know what it's going to do in your deck. Like, you kind of, like, you get your hands on it, you automatically include it in your deck no matter what you're doing, but you never know what's going to happen with it. Like, sometimes, like, both me and my friend have had games where we'll play, like, 6 games of Cube in a row, and we will never see it. We'll never see it, like, not even once in the deck, like, at all. Other times, we've had games where we'll get it, and it's like turn 8 or turn 9, and it's like useless. Like, it mana accelerates you for 3 on turn 8 or turn 9 when you're like full of lands and you don't care about mana at all anymore. You care more about cards that'll win you the game. And, like, let me tell you, a Black Lotus, like, on turn 8 or turn 9 is not going to win you the game. It never does. But then again, me and my friends have also had our fair share of amazing games with the Black Lotus. Like, I have a story about my best friend using a Black Lotus on turn 2 to mind twist me for like 7 or 6 or something like that, and it killed me. Like, it took like 2 more turns after that mind twist for me to die, but it did technically kill me. I've also had a game where I played against my best friend, and I cast Nether Void on the second turn off of a Black Lotus. You know, so like there have been insane games like that. Like the Black Lotus can do some pretty amazing stuff. But let me tell you, like if you play with it in a cube like me and my friends do, you guys will be absolutely amazed by how many times this card does nothing. Like it'll blow your freaking mind. Like you never actually know the power level of this card until you actually play with it. And let me tell you, it'll disappoint you a lot. It really will. Like, you know, like I said, like she's a fickle bitch. Like you don't know what's going to happen with her. Sometimes she'll win you a game and sometimes she'll utterly disappoint you. Like you never know. Hey Mono Black, thank you for joining. Let me catch up on here. Let's see. One mana cantrips. Taste test the Lotus to see if it's real. Yeah, it's not real. I don't need to lick my Black Lotus to know it's not real. Bo Falcon says they are actually brothers, Greg and Tim, but I think one of them died a while ago. Both did art together. Fantastic art. Oh, that's too bad. Greg is still alive, and Tim died back in 2006. I had to look it up. Oh, that's too bad. That makes me curious about this particular... Yeah. Tim died. Oh, okay. This was 2004. Okay, that's interesting. Very interesting. And then Mono Black says hi, and I said hi back. Hi, Mono Black. Thank you for joining. Talking about Cube, having a good time, taking a sip of coffee. Super important. It's like room temperature. It's right in that area of, like, not very good. I think room temperature coffee is like the worst tasting coffee. Okay, I'm going to finish this off because I have another thing of coffee over here and I kind of want to pour it. So give me just a second. Welcome to the coffee stream, boys and girls. Tell me about all of your adventures in drinking coffee. Have any of you ever been baristas working at a Starbucks? Pour myself some coffee from my French press. It's very good. I French press all of my coffee. It's like my favorite way to make coffee. Let me see if I got it all drained. Yeah, it's about there. Alright, I got my coffee all poured here. Put that off to the side. And then I gotta put in my eggnog, because I love eggnog. Oh, it's so good in coffee. Love. If I've said this a couple times, if I had the ability, like, to make it so that stores were forced to serve eggnog all year round, I would totally do it, because I would put that in my coffee every single day. But I guess then at that point it might lose its novelty, you know? Like, I'd probably have it so often that maybe I'd get tired of it. Oh, you don't like coffee, Mono Black? That's all good. I love coffee. I love, like, one of the things is that some people say, like, oh, I don't like coffee because it's bitter. And it's like, that's actually why I love coffee. I love the bitter taste of coffee. Like, I can actually drink my coffee black. Like, I prefer it with, like, milk, sometimes chocolate, and maybe a little bit of eggnog. But I can drink it black, and I legitimately enjoy it black as well. Like, I prefer it with things in it. But I can enjoy it just straight black. But yeah, I love coffee. I'm a coffee addict. So let's move on to the next one. I love this card. This is a From the Vault printing of Masticore. I also own an actual Urza's Destiny Masticore. I love Masticore. There's a lot of people who say this card is irrelevant. Like, it's not good because of power creep, but this card, I killed my friend with it. And it was really funny because I put it in my cube a while ago. And my best friend got it in his picks. Like, he got it in his in the first draft that he did after I put it in. Um, and he was like, "Oh yeah, like I saw Masticore, but I didn't put it in." I was like, "Dude, why did you not play with Masticore?" And he was like, "I just felt like it was slow. Like, I don't like the fact that I have to discard to it every turn, and it just felt slow, and I didn't think it was very strong." And I'm like, "Dude, I'm telling you, Masticore is so strong." He's like, "No, I don't think so, man. Like, I really don't." I'm like, "I'm not taking the Masticore out." He's like, "Whatever, dude, it's fine." So after that happened, like 2 cube matches later, like later on, like this was like a couple of weeks later or something like that of me and him playing together. I did a draft where I got Masticore and I put it in my deck and I destroyed him with it. I absolutely like it was absolutely destructive. And like it was amazing because I got to utilize every single one of his abilities to kill him. So like first of all, he's a 4-mana 4/4, which is fantastic as a colorless creature, like as an artifact. So like that on its own is very, very strong. But what I did was I ran a deck that had blue in it, and I had a ton of draw spells. So like I was drawing tons and tons of cards every turn, and I had my Masticore, and I was discarding stuff comfortably to keep my Masticore alive. And then what I did was I started sweeping his board, like, because we were so ahead in turns. Like, I think we were on, like, turn, like, in the later turns, like 9, 10, 11, 12, whatever. So, like, I had tons of mana, but I didn't have any spells to play to really do anything. So I was using all of my mana to deal damage to his creatures. So, like, I remember doing one particular turn where I spent 10 mana on his damage ability to hit something for 5 damage and kill it. And it was absolutely frustrating him. It was amazing. Like, he was like, "I play this creature," and I'm like, "Oh, well, I pay 4 and I deal 2 damage and it's dead." "Well, what about this creature? This is a big 5/5. And I was like, "Oh, well, I pay 10 mana and I deal 5 damage to it and it's dead." And, like, he couldn't have a board state. And the best part about it was, like, he forgot about it says 2 mana regenerate Masticore. So then he gets really brave because his board is gone, and I have a board state, and he doesn't. And he was like, "Fine, I board wipe," and he played, like a Day of Judgment or something like that. And, like, he was like, "I blow up everything," and I'm like, "Okay, my creatures are dead, but I pay 2 mana, and I regenerate Masticore." And he, like, picks up the card and puts it right in his face. And he's like, "How does regenerate work? Is that like you have to tap it and it doesn't die?" And I'm like, "That's exactly how it works." And he's like, "God damn it." Like, and I proceeded to like, and it was so funny because he board wiped just to try and get rid of Masticore, having forgot the regeneration ability. And like, I didn't really have much of a board state after that. And his board state was annihilated, and every time he tried to play something, I would kill it with the Masticore. And I was just swinging for 4, like, every single turn until he was dead. It was amazing. And I remember at the end of the game, I was like, "Hey, bro, so, I was just curious, what'd you think of Masticore?" He's like, "Dude, shut up." And I was like, "I'm telling you, dude, you gotta play with this card." And he's like, "Well, the only reason why you were able to play it is because you were drawing cards through that whole fight." And I'm like, "Yeah, that's an integral strategy of Masticore." Like, the thing is like, like, something that, like, and I love my friend. I gotta give him some credit, guys. I'm not lambasting my friend. I'm not saying he's an idiot. In fact, actually, in my opinion, my very good friend is, my best friend. He's actually a really smart guy, and he's a fantastic Magic player. He's an amazing Magic player. But sometimes, like, the one thing that kind of throws him off in Magic is, like, sometimes he doesn't realize that, like, when you have a card that requires it to be played a certain way, he's like, "Oh, well, that card's bad because you have to plan around it." And I'm like, "Well, that's not the case. The point is that you have to plan around the card. And I know you think that that's not good, and so you avoid cards that you have to plan around." But because I told you, like, this is the same guy who, for a while, didn't like the Abyss, and he didn't like Nether Void. And the reason why is because he's like, "Oh, well, if I played the Abyss, it's going to kill my stuff. Oh, if I played the Nether Void, it's going to counter my stuff." And it's like, you have to learn to play around these cards, guys. Like, Like, Masticore is a card that you have to plan around. Like, I knew I had tons of draw spells. So because I knew I had tons of draw spells, I knew I could play Masticore. However, if I didn't have all the draw spells and I didn't have all the reinforcement in my hand to support a Masticore, I wouldn't have played it. So, like, that's the thing about cards like this, is that these cards can be really, really strong, but you have to keep in mind that they require build around. Like, you have to, like, be able to plan your strategy around it. There was a great saying about Masticore a long time ago that I read that I loved, which was, the great saying was, when you play a Masticore, you're not playing a deck anymore. You're playing a Masticore. And that's absolutely true, because this card carries games on its back. But once it's out and it's doing things, you're playing this card and that's it. Like, you're not playing spells. You're paying your mana to deal damage. You're paying your mana to keep the Masticore alive. You're feeding cards to it. So your deck stops mattering, and the only thing that matters is Masticore. So, but it's a great card, and I love it. And I loved having that opportunity to, like, absolutely destroy my friend with it, especially after he was like, oh, I don't think it's a good card. But it definitely changed his mind, and he definitely has a new opinion on the card, like, and I'm glad about that. Like I said, he's a smart dude. It's just he sometimes doesn't understand that there are cards that you have to, like, plan around very carefully. Let me kind of catch up a little bit. Oh man, I fell behind. Colorless is the sixth color of magic. There you go, Richard Lash. Bo Falcon says he loves the smell of coffee, but he's not a fan of the taste, even with all the fixins. Okay, that's all good. Bo Falcon and Richard are fighting. Oops, hold on a second. My bad. Yeah. Lasher Cool sees the color in colorless, yes. Color is in the name, so it's the sixth color. Yes. Okay. Now that makes sense. Just remember, black and white are not colors either. Oh, that's a good point. That's technically... White is the absence of color, and black is the complete accumulation of all colors. Specifically based on light, not based on color scale. That's actually really important to know. Well, now you're getting technical. It all depends on how you look at things. Anything can be everything if we go down this road. Oh, and Mono Black says, congratulations on 60 subscribers. Thank you, Mono Black. I'm really happy about that. I got my last 2 subscribers in the last few days, and I'm really excited about it. So we're moving on. So the next card is Oblivion Stone. This is a copy of it from Iconic Masters. I have like about 3 copies of this card. I have one from Commander, and I think I have 2 from Iconic Masters. Excuse me. This card is interesting. It's really interesting how this card works, because, it's fun to, like, a lot of the time, it's very common for people to play it for 3, and then immediately sacrifice it for 5 and board wipe. But I have seen a few situations where people will put, like, counters on things to kind of, like, tip the scale in their favor. And a lot of the time what will happen is, I've done it this way, and my friend has done it this way, and it's probably one of the best uses of Oblivion Stone, is you play it for 3, and then you pay 4 mana to keep one thing alive. Like, you basically choose, like, what is going to be the one card that is going to win you the game after you wipe the board. So, like, they'll basically pay 4 mana to put a counter on one single permanent. And sometimes it's not creatures. Like, I've seen, my friend has actually put it on his enchantments before, too, which is really interesting. But he'll pay 4 to save one thing, and then he'll pay 5 next turn, or I will pay 5 next turn to destroy everything else. And that is actually a significant board presence to be able to wipe the board and only have and basically on your side of the battlefield, having the only piece that actually matters that can win you the game. So it's really interesting to see the card played that way. And, like, it's very expensive to use everything in this card. But the thing is that, considering how long the games go on for and how much mana investment is used in a lot of the stuff in the cube, it's actually pretty reasonable. This card gets used a lot, and it's very useful. Like I said, it's either a board wipe, or it's a board wipe where you get to have one thing you know, on your side of the board. I don't think I've ever seen anybody really try to, like, save a bunch of their stuff with this card, because there's so much mana investment for that it's not really worth it. And sometimes you have to be nervous about if you spend all your mana like trying to save your own permanents before a board wipe happens, it gives the opponent more time to destroy the Oblivion Stone before you have enough time to react and blow it off. So it just depends. But it's a great card. Hey, Clayton in the house. How you doing, brother? Plump the stone. I feel it. Plump the stone, dude. Uh, Next is one of the most broken cards ever printed right here. This is a From the Vault Umezawa Jeet. This card is absolutely ridiculous. Absolutely stupid, retarded, ridiculous. Easily one of the most powerful artifacts ever printed. It's a 2-mana legendary artifact equipment. It has equip 2. And this card is a freaking goddamn Swiss Army knife. And there's tons of really interesting things about how this card works. So it says, whenever equipped creature deals combat damage, put 2 charge counters on Umezawa Jeet. Remove a charge counter from Umezawa Jeet. You may choose one. Equipped creature gets +2/+2 until end of turn. Target creature gets -1/-1 until end of turn. Or you gain 2 life. So there's a lot to unpack about how ridiculously powerful and broken this card is. So first off that you need to pay attention to, whenever a creature deals combat damage, like, it doesn't have to kill anything, and it doesn't have to deal combat damage to a player. It just has to deal combat damage. So, like, you can swing with your creature and deal combat damage, and your creature may die, but the Umezawa Jeet is still going to get 2 charge counters on it. So that's the first notable important thing about why this card is so ridiculous. The next thing that makes it ridiculously broken is that it gets 2 charge counters for each instance of combat damage. So, like, you deal combat damage with it once, you get 2 charge counters. And each one ability only requires 1 charge counters, which means for each time you deal combat damage, you're going to get 2 chances to utilize this thing, which is absolutely ridiculous. The next thing that makes this card absolutely ridiculous, like I've already named off the first 2 things, the combat damage, the 2 charge counters. The third thing that makes this card absolutely bonkers is the fact that the charge counters do not go on the creature. The charge counters go on the Umezawa Jeet, which means that if the creature that is equipping the Umezawa Jeet dies or gets removed or whatever, the charge counters stay on the Jeet, and you can still use the Jeet as long as it has the charge counters on it. It's ridiculous. So now that we've, paid attention to all of the bogus effects from that single sentence in the beginning, let's move on to the next part. So then it says you can remove a charge counter, and the equipped creature can either have +2/+2, a target creature can have -1/-1, or you gain 2 life. So the charge counters go on the Jeet. So, and the Jeet is the only thing that cares about the charge counters, not the creature. So that means that if the creature's dead and this is not equipped to anything, you can still remove charge counters from the Jeet while it's not equipped to anything, and you can use the -1/-1 ability or the gaining 2 life. So, like, your opponent can remove the creature, and then if there's still charge counters on the Jeet, and it's not equipped to anything, you can at any time still remove a charge counter to either kill something or gain life. And the thing that makes that extra ridiculous is that because the activated ability is simply based on removing a charge counter, if you have a bunch of charge counters stacked on the Umezawa Jeet, and somebody's like, I hit it with a shatter, you can just simply say, okay, well, I remove 1 charge counter and I gain 2 life, and I remove another charge counter and I give your creature -1/-1 and it's dead, and then the Umezawa Jeet blows up. Like, so even if they target it with removal, and it has charge counters on it, you can still at instant speed remove the charge counters to use any of those 2 bottom abilities. So out of the 3 abilities, it's generally considered to be that the +2/+2 ability is the weakest of the 3, but even so, it's still ridiculous to be able to make a creature bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger using the Umezawa Jeet to just kind of powerhouse your way into a victory. Like, This card is it's a freaking Swiss Army knife. Like, it does everything. I mean, it has so many different ways to be broken because, like I said, it gains 2 charge counters. It does not need to be equipped to be utilized, and it gets 2 charge counters every instance of combat damage of any sort. Then it has 3 different abilities that you can use at any time, and 2 of those 3 abilities can be used at any time, whether it's equipped to a creature or not. It's bogus. It's ridiculous. I don't even know how or why they thought that this card could be the way that it is. I'll never understand it. I'll never understand it, ever. And it's also kind of like, what's really interesting about it, too, is that it went through the same thing as Skullclamp. Supposedly, the ability that says target creature gets -1/-1 until end of turn, that was apparently added on this card at the last minute, and it wasn't play tested. So, like, there was a form of this card play tested multiple times that didn't have the -1/-1 ability. And they thought it was pretty powerful, but at the same time they were like, maybe we should add something else to it. And they were like, okay, let's add the -1/-1 ability. And then they're like, should we playtest it? Nah, we playtested it so many times without the -1/-1 ability. And it's like, you guys should have tried harder. Like, you should have tried harder. This card is bonkers. It's absolutely stupid, ridiculously powerhouse powerful. Like, it's wrong. It's cruel. Play with it in a cube. Beat your friends over the face with it in a cube. Oh man. Oh my god, everybody talking about the Jeet. Wild Goat says, yay, Jeet! I have like 4 foils from Kamigawa. Dude, okay. The foils from Kamigawa, I think, are worth a small fortune, so hold on to those, because those are probably worth a lot. I kind of remember that I couldn't afford to get a foil from Kamigawa, but I got this really nice foil from the Vault series, and I was like, that's good enough for me. I'm cool with that. So I'm pretty happy with it. Don't cheat on me. Very broken. I hear this card's legit. Legit, yes. It's a Fragite artifact. You guys in the Jeet jokes, oh my god. I never use this, it's probably broken with Proliferate. Dude, yeah. Dude, the Umezawa Jeet is... Like, if you've never played with it, you gotta try it at least once. It's oppressive. It's absolutely oppressive. It wins games, like it does. And like I said, like, one of the things that makes it so powerful is the fact that it doesn't need to be equipped to a creature to do stuff. Like, it's so ridiculous. Bushido boost for blocking. Love the +2/+2 ability. Yeah, it's pretty good. And yes, Double Strike, Wrathwood makes a good point too. Double Strike will allow you to hit combat damage twice, which means you would get 4 charge counters instead of just 2. It's ridiculous. So this is the other Spell Bomb. This is considered to be, like, a lot of people consider this to be the best Spell Bomb. I actually consider this one to be the second most powerful Spell Bomb, because I think that the blue one is the best one. But this is Pyrite Spell Bomb. It's a 1-mana artifact that says pay a red, sacrifice it. It deals 2 damage to our creature or player. Or you can pay 1 and sacrifice it to draw a card. This card is very, very strong. It gets past protection from red, which is a pretty big deal. And it's a colorless spell, so like it can't be. It's a colorless shock, which is why people like it, and that actually makes a big difference. Like, it really does. Like, this card is very strong in the cube. This is a card I've had since Mirrodin. I don't have any of the other ones. I only have Pyrite and Aether. And I don't have a foil Pyrite, but I'll probably get one eventually. I think it's like $4 or $5, which is pretty expensive for a foil common. But it's because this is actually considered to be the most sought after of all the spell bombs that it's so expensive in that fashion. But this card's great. It's great removal. It draws cards when you need it to. I highly recommend playing with it. Like, all the spell bombs are really good. But the blue and the red one are my favorite. I would say the black one is probably like the 3rd most powerful. It's like a shock that sits in an egg. Yeah, it is like that. It's pretty nice. Next is the Rack. Um, so this card's interesting. I have it in the cube because I also have Black Vice. This is a, let's see, it's 1995, so I think that's 4th edition. So this is like a 4th edition rack, and, you know, this card is hard to play with. It gets, I mean, not very many people play with it. Even I don't really play with it that often. Um, like, I would play with it if I played a lot of black, I guess, because it's easy to, you know, get your opponent down really fast in cards. So, like, if I was running blue and black, the rack can be pretty decent. Um, excuse me. I would say Black Vice is better, but one of the reasons why, like, because I've thought about removing this card a few times, but one of the main reasons why I don't think I'll ever remove it is because it completes you know, I have Black Vice in here, and it feels like I need the rack in there too to complete it. So that's kind of one of the main reasons why I have it. It's a 1-mana artifact that says at the end of target opponent's upkeep, the rack deals 1 damage to that player for each card in his or hand fewer than 3. So basically it checks to see if they have less than 3 cards, and if they have less than 3 cards, then they take basically like 1 damage for each card less than 3. I don't know, like, now that I'm really thinking about it, maybe I will take it out. We'll see. I have a card that might go in my cube that I ordered recently because I found out it was really cheap. So, it only cost me like $1. So, that'll probably arrive soon. What happened was I went online to buy some cards for some friends of mine. Because I'm buying Christmas gifts. I did all my Christmas shopping today. And I was looking around on TCG Player to find some cards to buy for my friends. And there was an artifact that was really cheap. And I knew for a fact that one of my friends was really interested in getting a copy of it, because they said something about it quite some time to me ago. And I was like, okay, well, I'll buy him one. And I was like, oh my god, it's only $1. Like, all right, well, like, I'll buy him one and I'll buy myself one. So maybe I'll take the rack out and put that artifact in. I don't know, we'll see. But, because I mean, I don't know. I keep it in because I feel like I should have it in for the Vice, but who knows? We'll see. Moving on. Next is Howling Mine. This card is amazing. It's absolutely amazing. I actually wish I had an older version of it, but I don't. Maybe what I'll do is I'll go online and see if I can get like a revised copy of Howling Mine for really cheap, because I think revised is not that expensive, so we'll see. But I do have this M10 print. It's very nice. I think the artwork is pretty decent. This card is absolutely a powerhouse. It's 2-mana artifact that says at the beginning of each player's draw step, if Howling Mine is untapped, that player draws an additional card. So you pay 2 mana, and every turn each player gets to draw 2 cards unless you tap the Howling Mine. Maybe you have your Bone Crank, your Icy Manipulator out, and you have the ability to tap down your own Howling Mine so that your opponent doesn't get to draw cards. Who knows? Can be pretty useful. Hell, maybe your opponent is playing the Howling Mine and you have the what's it called? Oh wait, I don't think that would work. Let's see. Your upkeep happens before your draw step. That's right. So, yeah, it wouldn't work. You wouldn't be able to tap it down during the upkeep. Oh, wait, yeah, you could. What am I thinking? Untap step is before the upkeep. So, like, they could untap all their stuff. You tap your Icy Manipulator to tap down the Howling Mine during their upkeep, and then they don't get to draw an extra card on their draw step. And then next turn, oh, but then you'd have to have a way to untap it. Forget it. I'm trying to make all these strategies and they don't even work, so don't listen to me. Point is if it's on your side, you can tap it down on your side and your opponent doesn't get to draw cards and stuff like that, so that can be a lot of fun. It's a great card. Very powerful. Ratherwood says, the art is cool too. Take a ride on the Howling Mine. Very, very true. It's very nice. This card I'm really happy about. This is actually probably... You guys are about to see one of the single most valuable cards I have in my entire collection of Magic cards. This is a 100% legit Mox Opal. I do have to say legit because I'm pretty sure that they make proxies of Mox Opal, but I swear to you, I promise you with everything I have on my collection, This is a real Mox Opal, and I actually cracked this in a booster pack. I'm really proud of it. I've owned it since this set, and it was something, I think it was like the very first Scars of Mirrodin booster pack. Like, I think I remember going to the store, and I bought like 3 packs of Mirrodin, of Scars of Mirrodin, and me and my friends went home and we opened our 3 packs. And, well, I bought 3 packs. I think my friends might have bought a few more. But the very first Scars of Mirrodin booster pack that I opened this Mox Opal in it. And I flipped the hell out. I was so happy. I love this card. It's been with me for a long, long time. I don't know if it's pack fresh. I do remember that when me and my friends at this point were playing Magic, we were playing with sleeves. So I might have put it into a sleeve right away, but I can't remember exactly. But I've had this card for a very long time. I've had it since the set came out. It was the first Scars of Mirrodin pack that I opened, and I was really happy about it. And I've used it in a few different things. And I think it's really cool that I still have it, and it's in great condition, and it's legit, and I think it's awesome that it's kind of cool when you have like a really valuable card that people are regularly trying to get their hands on, and you're like, I got a copy of that card. So Mox Opal's great. It's a 0 mana artifact with Metalcraft that says add 1 mana of any color to your mana pool. You may only use this ability if you control 3 or more artifacts. It's very easy, even in the cube, it's very easy to be able to create mana for this like immediately. Like, sometimes it's a little rough on the first 2 turns, but, you know, it usually works out really easily. Like, it matters. It makes a big impact. This is a proxy Mox Pearl. So, like I said, other than my Mox Opal is 100% legit. All my other Power 9 Moxes are all fakes. It's a 0 mana artifact. It creates white mana. It's amazing for all the obvious reasons that a Mox is amazing for, so, you know, play with one if you can get your hands on it. Buy proxies, guys. It's really not a big deal. Like, seriously, if you're playing a cube, you're ultra casual like me, get your hands on some proxies. I sadly cannot tell you how you can get proxies, but I've said this before, if you have the motivation to get your hands on proxies, you'll find them. Like, I know you guys can do it if you really try hard enough. Next is Illusionist Bracers. This is from Gatecrash, and this card is obscenely powerful. It's a 2 mana piece of equipment that says 2 mana, 3 equip. Whenever an ability of equipped creature is activated, if it isn't a mana ability, copy that ability. You may choose new targets for the copy. This card is really strong. Like, put this on an Elvish Piper, and then suddenly you're not getting 1 card out for free, you're getting 2 cards out for free. Put this on a Master Transmuter, and suddenly you're bouncing 2 artifacts and not just 1 artifact. Put this on, like, I don't know, like a Vivian Stinger, and deal 2 damage instead of 1 damage. Like, this card's really, really strong. It's a powerhouse piece of equipment, and it takes threatening creatures and makes them twice as threatening. Like, it's a big deal. It can win games. It's pretty scary. Get your hands on it. It's really good. I love this card. So I was talking about how much I love Darksteel Pendant. This is like Darksteel Pendant, but better. The only thing that makes Darksteel Pendant slightly better than this is the fact that Darksteel Pendant is indestructible. So this is a foil crystal ball from M11. And it's a 3 mana artifact that says tap 1, tap the crystal ball, scry 2. This card has such an absolutely powerful like impact on your board state. It's ridiculous. Normally when I get this card out, I'm using it like every single turn. Every single turn. And it's such a big deal. When you're able to filter all your cards to, you know, exactly what you need when you need it, it's such a big deal. Like, the thing is the power of a crystal ball makes you feel like you are playing a perfect game constantly. Like, all your draws are exactly what you need them to be. You always know what's coming ahead. Your opponent can't handle it. Like, and it's really funny because people, like, this is a card that's unassuming in the sense that people don't like to remove it because they don't think it's really powerful right away. So like they'll use like all their shatter effects to blow up other scary artifacts, but they'll usually leave this last. They will destroy it if they have like an artifact spell, but they don't have anything else to target. They will target this. But this card is really good at being unassuming. People don't like to blow it up because they're so much scareder of things like Umezawa Jit or Illusionist Bracers or whatever. You know, so they'll leave it behind. It's very powerful and it's not to be reckoned with. And I think that actually, like me personally, if I see this come out on my boards, on my opponent's side of the board, I usually try to find a way to get rid of it because it leads to people playing perfect games in cubes. So try to get rid of it. But definitely play with it. Put it in your cube. It's great. This card is so cool. This is a Bosium strip. It's an original print from Weatherlight. And this card is really interesting. So basically, this card turns all of your instants... This is, first of all, the first thing I gotta say. Bosium strip is a card that basically invented Flashback before Flashback existed. So, like, you'll notice all of the complex rulings of this ability. This is basically saying, like, the basic breakdown of what this card does is it says you pay 3 mana to cast it, 3 mana to tap it, and it says the top card of your graveyard, if it's an instant or sorcery, has Flashback. Its Flashback is equal to its casting cost. That's basically what this card does. I'll read it to you thoroughly. It says... until end of turn, if at any time the top card in your graveyard is an instant, an interrupt, or sorcery card, you may play that card as though it were in your hand. If you do so, remove the card from the game. Basically, pay 3, tap it, the top instant or sorcery card of your graveyard has Flashback. Its Flashback is equal to its casting cost. That's basically what this card does. It's so good. Like... Admittedly, you have to kind of plan around it a little bit because you kind of need to try and stack your graveyard because it requires that the card, the instant or sorcery, has to be on the top of your graveyard. It has to be the previous spell you cast. So you kind of have to plan around it like that, well, with that in mind. But it's very strong. I've made, like, it's like, you know, you can flashback a Time Walk. You can flashback a Tooth and Nail. You can flashback, I don't know, a Lightning Bolt or something. Like, there's so many things you can flashback using the Bosium strip, and it's so fun. Like, this card is just a barrel full of monkeys of, you know, full of fun. Like, definitely try it. I don't know if it's expensive. It's an old card. I've had it for a long time. This is another one of those artifacts, one of those cards that was... given to me by that guy that I was telling you about, the guy who gave me the Mana Vault and a whole bunch of other cards. This was in that collection that he gave me, so it's a fun card. I've been playing with it for a long time. It's great. Yeah, Flashback seems pretty good for that. It's nice. It's a lot of fun, Wrath of Wood. I highly recommend it. The next card is Quietus Spike. Quietus Spike is a really interesting card. I've had this... I opened this up in a booster pack from, I believe that's Shards of Alara. And this card is a lot of fun. It's very interesting, it's very expensive, and you kind of have to plan around it a little bit. But it scares people. Like, this card can definitely end games. Facebook is telling me that somebody wants me to add them as a friend, and I'm like, go away, Facebook. I can't stand Facebook. It drives me nuts. I have one, but it just... blech. Anyways, so yeah, it's a 3-mana artifact equipment with Equip 3, and it says, Equipped creature has Death Touch. Whenever equipped creature deals combat damage to a player, that player loses half of his or her life rounded up. This thing is pretty killer. It tends to make its way onto creatures that are completely evasive or unblockable. And it's ended games multiple times. Like, I've used it to kill my friend's used it to kill me. It's a lot of fun. There's anything really spectacular that I could say about it. Like, I mean, I've seen it end games, but I'll admit, when this thing wins a game, it's a little anticlimactic. because the power of how easy this thing can win a game is so obvious that it doesn't like really create a huge blowout. It just kind of is like, all right, well, you can't block this and you're almost dead. And then the next turn you are dead. You know, like it's that's just how it works. And you know, and it's pretty interesting because the way this card works is you get to deal the damage that your creature deals, and then after the damage is dealt, then the player loses their life half, half, and then round it up, which is kind of nice. So it's pretty killer. It's pretty killer. And the rounding up is nice because it guarantees that you can kill somebody with it. Yeah, this is one of those don't shuffle your grave rules cards. Yeah, it's true. So there are a few, I gotta say, Ratherwood, there are a few cards like that in my cube. And the thing is that what me and my friends do is that we usually don't care about the order of cards in our graveyard. So we'll shuffle through them and, like, sometimes we'll rearrange them so that we can remember triggers. Like, for example, if Genesis is in the graveyard, or if Anger is in the graveyard, like the incarnations that do things based on graveyard stuff. We'll allow people to kind of like shift them to the top and stuff like that to remember stuff. But we have a rule for cards like Bosium Strip where, like, if Bosium Strip hits the battlefield, you have to stop shuffling up your graveyard, because that's a card that actually cares about what's on the top of your graveyard. So that's kind of how we do that. Like, we allow people to shift stuff out of convenience, but if you have a card out in play that cares about the order of your graveyard, you're not allowed to shuffle your graveyard anymore, because it breaks the rules. So the next artifact is Chromatic Lantern. This is a print from Return to Ravnica. This card, if anybody's... I think they reprinted this in the most recent Ravnica set for, like, Arena and stuff like that, so I feel like most people are pretty familiar with this card. This card is so incredibly strong. It's ridiculous how strong this is. It's like a really good... It's like a better mana rock. I mean, so it's a 3-mana artifact that says lands you control have tap, add 1 mana of any color, which is ridiculously strong. And then on top of that, the artifact itself can create mana of any color. Let me get it to focus. Come on. Come on. You can do it. There it is. Okay. So yeah, this is a really powerful card. There's, plenty of mana rocks in my artifacts. In fact, I would say the majority of my artifacts are in fact mana rocks. And this is a really obscenely powerful one. It feels great for 3 mana. Like, I mean, I always consider 3 mana to be pretty expensive for a mana rock. But because this has so much upside, like, not only is it a mana rock on its own, but it also makes all your lands any color you need them to be. So, like, it never feels bad to cast this for 3 mana, and 3 mana is when you push it for mana rocks. So the next card is Aether Vial. So I was telling a story about how I used to have a deck that ran, like, it ran, like, 3 copies of Aether Vial, and it had, like, 4 copies of Darksteel Pendant and some other shenanigans. I don't have any of my original prints of Aether Vial anymore. They're all gone. I can't remember when I lost them. I can't remember if I gave them away or if something else happened to them. But the point is I don't have any of my original prints of Aether Vial anymore. And it sucks because I had like 3 of them. And I remember that I didn't have 4. I had exactly 3 because I couldn't get the 3 that I had, I opened up in booster packs and built a deck with them. But I never got a 4th one, and I never bothered to buy a 4th one. So that's why I really remember well that deck used to only have 3 of them. But this card's insane. This is the only print I have of Aether Vial. I cracked it in a pack of Iconic Masters, and it's very strong. It's a 1-mana artifact that says at the beginning of your upkeep you may put a charge counter on Aether Vial. You may tap Aether Vial. You may put a creature card with converted mana cost equal to the number of charge counters on Aether Vial from your hand onto the battlefield. So this card's really strong for multiple different reasons. I mean, first of all, it's a 1-mana artifact, so like you could play it on the first turn. The other thing is that it allows you. It's like it in its own special way kind of doubles your mana. So like it's kind of like having the twice the amount of mana that you have already. So like as long as if you play it on the first turn and you put a charge counter on it every turn, it's like it's almost always going to have the same amount of charge counters as the amount of mana you have, like most of the time, not all the time. And that means that like you could tap out, like for let's say it's like turn 3, you can tap 3 to cast a 3 CMC card, and then you can tap the Aether Vial with 3 charge counters on it to get like another 3 CMC card. So it's crazy strong. The other thing that makes this card ridiculous is that this card can put creatures out into play at instant speed. So like you can like put charge counters on it and leave it untapped, and then you can like wait until your opponent's turn to like flash something into play with it, which is ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous. Using this at instant speed is absolutely crazy powerful. In fact, I feel like that's the thing that makes this card over the top in power. Like, absolutely. Very strong card. Rotherwood says, I have one Darksteel Vial. It's a fun card. Well, it's Aether Vial. Oh, or do you mean the original from Darksteel? That must be what you mean. Like, you have a Darksteel copy of Aether Vial. Yeah, I mean, like I said, I used to have 3 copies of it, and I don't remember what happened to them. I tore that deck apart to do other things with it, but I don't remember what happened to all the cards I had in it. Only some of those Mirrodin cards stayed with me through the years, but I lost a bunch of them. The next one is Darksteel Juggernaut. So, this card's really interesting. I've seen... So, the worst case scenario for this card, it's a 5-mana 1/1. That's like the worst possible situation you can get into with this card. And so it says, Darksteel Juggernaut's power and toughness are each equal to the number of artifacts you control. Darksteel Juggernaut is indestructible and attacks each turn if able. So, worst case scenario, it's a 5-mana 1/1. And let me tell you, like, as a 5-mana 1/1, it's strong. This card is actually really good as a 5-mana 1/1 indestructible. I've seen it happen multiple times. And it becomes like a big deal because like it's going to attack every turn and you can't deal with it. And it does actually get like, I mean, it barely ever stays as a 5-mana 1/1. It usually gets pretty big. So, I mean, this card's pretty awesome, and most of the time it's really hard to deal with, and it never goes away. So, it's a big fun fatty that you get to play around with every once in a while. I like it. Next is Gilded Lotus. This is a foil from Dominaria. I cracked this. This is so cool because I cracked this in, I think it was like my 3rd pack of like Dominaria. Like I bought like a bunch of like booster packs. Like me and my friend, we went out and we drafted Dominaria. So like we went out and we bought like 4 or 5 booster packs to draft with, each for us. And I cracked this in like the 3rd pack that I used in a draft, and I was so happy that I got it as a foil. Because I actually collect Lotuses. I'm a big fan of them. And so it was really cool to get this as a foil, and it used to be in a modern deck I was playing for a while. But I put it in my cube because I play my cube much more often than I do modern or anything else like that. So, you know, I really like this, and it's a 5-mana artifact. It creates 3 mana of any one color. You get to use it over and over again. It's a great mana rock, like it really is. And it has a pretty significant presence in the cube. Like, I mean, a lot of people prefer it in Commander. But considering cube has really long games, this makes a pretty big deal. Oh, Hellx jumped in. What's up, Hellx? How you doing? Last creature just needs vigilance, and then he's forced to be reckoned with. Yeah, it's true. The Darksteel Juggernaut is pretty nice if it somehow gets vigilance. It doesn't happen that often, but it can. It's a good card. The Darksteel Juggernaut does have a pretty significant presence in the cube. Like, it makes a pretty big impact. Next is Lotus Bloom. So we had the Gilded Lotus, and now we go into Lotus Bloom. So, like I said, I collect Lotuses. This is a foil promotional Time Spiral Lotus Bloom. And I actually have a goal to own 5 of these. I actually currently own 3 of them, and I just need to get 2 more. And they're all like this. They're all exactly the same, like same art, same foil, same print, all that. And it's a big deal to me because this card is kind of important to me. First of all, it's foil. And this was so for anybody who doesn't know, this art is done by Christopher Rush. It's a Christopher Rush Lotus, and the thing is that it was done back in 2006, which was just a little bit before he passed away. And so I think it's really cool that they actually, as a promotional piece, got Christopher Rush to go and print a new Lotus, like paint a new Lotus. And I think it's really beautiful. Like I actually prefer this art over the original Lotus Bloom art. And this card itself, like in power level, it's very strong, especially in the cube. That suspend 3, for 0, it seems like it would suck, but it actually really works out very nicely. Like I said, I want to own like 5 copies of it, but I only have 3. There's only 1 in the cube, obviously, and this card makes a big deal. It's got a pretty nice impact. I mean, it's a little slow, but it gets it done. It really does. I like it a lot. I love this card. Just to show you guys, like, I mean, I even have one right here. There's another Lotus. I just keep them on hand, like, it's one of my favorite cards of all time, so I have a bunch of them, and like I said, it's my goal to own 5 of them. Next card is a card we were talking about earlier. Here is Cranial Plating from Fifth Dawn. This card is obnoxiously powerful, especially in the cube. Artifacts have a really strong presence in the cube. And you would think it's funny because there's only like 50 artifacts in the cube, so you would think they wouldn't be as strong as they are, considering their numbers are relatively equal to all other colors. But they have a very significant presence in the cube, and man, oh man, they can get very scary. Very scary. Cranial Plating, I remember having a game where I killed my friend, like, very quickly using specifically this card because I had like, I think like 2 Moxen out, like, in the beginning, and like a bunch of other easy to use artifacts. And all I had to do was I played like a small guy, like a small little 1/1 on the first turn or something like that. And I equipped this to it like a turn or 2 later, and I was like swinging for like 4 or 5 every single turn, and he could not handle it. It was just way too much for him way too early. So this card can end games very quickly. It's very, very strong. It's a 2-mana artifact equipment. It says equipped creature gets +1/+0 for each artifact you control. You may tap 2 black mana to attach Cranial Plating to target creature you control, which that ability moves at instant speed. And it's a 1-mana equip. So yeah, this card is very, very strong. It kills. It can win games. It's oppressive. It's very strong. That's also another card that has like, you can buy like Cranial Plating for like less than $1, for like $1 or less or something like that. But the foil is crazy expensive. It's like 20 or 30 bucks for like a foil Cranial Plating. It's ridiculous. Helex says, I've been waiting for your cube artifacts. Wanted to see how it holds up on the equipment end. Oh, dude, you should have been here earlier, Helex. I went through like Jeet and stuff like that. But you haven't even seen all the crazy bonkers equipment yet. We're still getting into it. Pew Pew Lotus. Yeah, Lotus more powerful than morning coffee. Speaking of coffee, you just reminded me, Helex, that I need to drink more of my coffee. Ah, that's good. The instant speed equip is nuts. Just move it on to one attacker that's unblocked. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's exactly how it works. It's so ridiculous. Oh yeah, Helex, you should have been here for the Jeet. I went through it a while ago. It's nuts. The next artifact is Helm of the Host from Dominaria. Speaking of really, really powerful equipment. It's a 4-mana legendary artifact equipment for equip 5, and it says, at the beginning of combat on your turn, create a token that's a copy of equipped creature, except the token isn't legendary if equipped creature is legendary. That token gains haste. This card is so strong. The thing is, like, I always felt like when they printed this card that they were supposed to either sacrifice the tokens or exile the tokens or something. But that's not the case with this card, which makes it very obnoxiously strong. Because, you can have a huge battlefield filled with really powerful creatures that you're just continuously making copies of, and then you have like an army of a single creature. It's very scary and it's very strong. Like, I mean, you know, I kind of almost compare like that one card that copies abilities that I was showing you guys earlier. Let me see if I can find it really quick. Oh, it was way back. The Illusionist Bracers. I kind of consider these on the same power level. Like, you have one that doubles, like, all the abilities, and then you have the other one that makes copies of creatures. Like, it's so crazy, crazy strong. And I love having these kinds of artifacts in here. They're stupid powerful, and I love them. I love them to death. If I don't see hot soup, I'm leaving. Well, you better leave then, Helex. I'll see you next time. Take it easy. Have a great night. Next is Mox Jet. You know, it's a Mox. It makes black mana. It's great. Play with it if you can. Nothing else. Moving on. Next is Lion's Eye Diamond. So, this card is very weird. It doesn't get played that often because obviously, like, you have to be able to, like, have the right kind of combo pieces with it. It's a 0 mana artifact that says, sacrifice Lion's Eye Diamond, discard your hand, add 3 mana of any one color to your mana pool, play this ability as a mana source. So, I mean, there are ways to play this in the cube, but it's very tough. Most people just ignore it or throw it off to the side and not use it, because, like, there's not many cards that you... Like, I mean, there are cards that have, like, expensive mana abilities that you can use Lion's Eye Diamond with, but it's very tough to get it off right, so most people just kind of skip it. And I'm okay with that. I like the fact that I have it, and that it's in my cube, and that you can use it, but, you know, it doesn't necessarily, like, impact the board heavily, and it doesn't have the greatest reputation of all time. I'm okay with that, you know? I'm okay with that. Helix says, Hot Soup. Equipped creature can't be blocked. Whenever equipped creature is dealt damage, destroy it. Equip 3. Is that like an uncard? That sounds like it's an uncard. I don't play with uncards in my cube. I'm sorry, Helix, I don't. The next card is 1,000 Year Elixir, and this comes from a commander set. I don't actually have an original print of this card, which I'm okay with. It says, you may activate abilities of creatures you control as though those creatures had haste, and it has pay 1 mana, tap, untap target creature. This card is crazy strong. A lot of people love it for simply the untap ability, but also the whole thing about activating abilities as though they had haste is pretty impressive. I like this card a lot. It makes it changes board states. It allows you to mess with things in really interesting ways. Like, because I was talking about, like, for example, Elvish Piper. Like, this thing would break Elvish Piper. You know, if you have, like, Krosan... Wait, not Krosan. The Kazandu Tuskcaller, like, this can mess around with Kazandu Tuskcaller, you know? Like, it does all sorts of cool things. It's a good artifact. I like it a lot. I love this card. This is Solemn Simulacrum. This is from the Commander set. It's not an original print from Mirrodin. It'd be cool if I had an original print from Mirrodin, but I don't. So Solemn Simulacrum is an artifact creature golem. It's a 4 mana 2/2, and it says, when Solemn Simulacrum enters the battlefield, you may search your library for a basic land card and put that card onto the battlefield tapped. If you do, shuffle your library. When Solemn Simulacrum is put into a graveyard from the battlefield, you may draw a card. This guy right here, he is the master of card advantage. Like, he's so good. You know, you play him and you don't, like... So you play him for 4 mana, and he mana fixes you and puts you ahead by 1 card immediately. And then he dies. And he dies, and he gains you another card. Like, it's a, like... He's a +1 card advantage card, which makes him amazing. Because, like... It's just really good. Like, you never feel bad about playing this guy, and you're always okay with running him into, like, death. Like, you don't care if he dies, which is an amazing feeling. Great, powerful card. I don't think he's that expensive. I think he's been reprinted multiple times, so he's probably relatively easy to get your hands on. However, if you're an OG, you get your hands on the original Mirrodin print. That's the way to do it. I don't have one, but, you know. This next card I adore. I love this card. I have a special affinity for it. This is Batterskull. This is a promotional Batter Skull. It's a foil Batter Skull. It's a Judge promo. It's a 5 mana artifact equipment with Equip 5. And it has Living Weapon. When this equipment enters the battlefield, put a 0/0 black germ creature token onto the battlefield, then attach this to it. Equipped creature gets +4/+4 and has Vigilance and Lifelink. Oh my god, this card is strong, guys. This card is extremely, ridiculously, stupid powerful. I had an obsession for a while with this. For anybody who was in my painting streams and remembers me talking about this card, I had this weird obsession with trying to get my hands on it because I didn't own any copies of it. And I wanted one so badly that I went out of my way. I dug around on multiple different card websites. And I used TCG Player to get this copy. And I managed to get this in my hands for $18, and which is really cheap for a Batter Skull. And it's in relatively good condition. There's some scratch marks on the back, which is what made it like cheaper. But I didn't care. I just wanted one. And I love this card. It wins games. I mean, it also can return to your hand to protect itself. You can cast it over and over again. Like, even if it stays on the field and you re-equip it for its full cost, it's still worth it. This card kills people. It's broken, stupid, retarded, powerful, and I highly encourage people to play with it because it is so extremely ridiculously strong. And it's so fun to play with it. It's so fun to play with it. Like, I don't know. I've only really gotten to play with it once, but it won me a game, so I mean, I'm cool with that. Actually, no, I got to play with it a second time, but it was removed the second time because I actually played it stupidly. I didn't play with it correctly, and I got it killed by accident. So, it's a great card. Highly recommend getting your hands on it, though I will tell you, it's a very expensive card. It's hard to get it. I had to go way out of my way to find a cheap copy of it. So next is Platinum Angel. I have owned this card for a long time. I opened this up in a booster pack, and I love it. Platinum Angel from Mirrodin. 7 mana, 4/4 flyer. You can't lose the game, and your opponents can't win the game. Me and my best friend, have a joke about this card. We call this his spirit card, because he always seems to get, like, whenever he drafts this card in Cube, he always seems to get it out right when he needs it the most. And it absolutely, like, at first it, like, infuriated me, but now I just think it's hilarious because he always seems to get it right when he needs it. And it's so strong. This card is ridiculous. One of the most amazing games I've ever seen in my entire life was my best friend. I was kicking his ass, and I got him all the way down to 1 life. And he knew that he had Platinum Angel in the deck, but he wasn't sure if he was going to get it, and he was going to die the very next turn because he was at 1 life. And he top-decked this the very next turn that he needed it. It was ridiculous. And then, like, I didn't have a way to remove the Platinum Angel, so he proceeded to just absolutely destroy me with his Battlefield and his Platinum Angel. And it made me so mad because I had him at 1 life. He went into negative numbers, and I had no answer to Platinum Angel. And it killed me. It was ridiculous. Card's great. I highly recommend playing with it. It's a lot of fun. Next I'm going to move on. Well, let me catch up a little bit. Yeah, I've never heard of the Hot Soup card. It sounds like it's an uncard. Are you sure it's not an uncard? Because it sounds... M15. I'll look it up later, Hellx, but it sounds like it's an uncard to me. What you do is turn Hot Soup into a creature, then sack it to Witch's Oven and get food you can eat. Oh, that's funny. Yeah, Batter Skull is the Juggernaut carrying Hot Soup. Okay. This art has more action. He isn't 2-decking, he's keeping it in his sleeve. Oh, I see what you're saying, Hellx. Maybe. Yeah, he'd be cheating. He's actually had a couple times where he's cheated by accident. It's happened a few times. But then again, I've also had my games where I cheat by accident, so you never know. Mox Ruby. 0 mana artifact, creates red. Pretty obvious, just like all the other Mox. And I gotta go ahead and remind you guys, all of my Moxes, except for Like, I showed you guys my Mox Opal, but the Power 9 Moxen are all fake. So, just keeping that in mind. Air proxies. Next is Nevinyrral's Disc, and I love this card so much. Larry Niven's Disc is what we like to call it, because that's what it actually is. This is a... I'm pretty sure this is a... I think it's an unlimited print? Not 100... No, I think it's actually revised. Yeah, I'm pretty sure this is a revised print of Nevinyrral's Disc. This card is very strong for anybody who's not played with this card. It's a 4-mana artifact, and it comes into play tapped, and it says, destroy all creatures, enchantments, and artifacts in play, including the disc itself. The disc begins tapped, but can be untapped as usual. Maybe it is unlimited. I'll have to look it up. I can't remember. Because there are aspects of it that make me think it's revised, but then I think it's also unlimited for other reasons. I'm not sure. I'll look it up later, but it's either unlimited or revised. And I love this card. Like, I know that there's been multiple different reprints of it with, like, new art and stuff like that. This art is my favorite. I love the Cthulhu disc. Like, that's what it is. It's a disc with Cthulhu attached to it, and that's what makes it so cool. And the idea that, like, a disc is opening up and, like, a Cthulhu monster comes out and, like, eats everything is such a cool piece of flavor for this card. I love it. So, great removal, by the way. Like, highly recommend playing with this. It's a fantastic board wipe. I play with it a lot as well. Very, very fun. Like, very good card. Always comes through for you in a pinch. Like, highly recommend playing with it. It's very good. Next is Mana Crypt. This is a proxy. It's not real. But, you know, it's nice, and it plays like the real thing, so who cares if it's fake or not? It's a 0-mana artifact that says, during your upkeep, flip a coin. Opponents calls heads or tails while the coin is in the air. If the flip ends up in opponent's favor, Mana Crypt deals 3 damage to you. Tap to add 2 colorless mana to your mana pool. Play this ability as an interrupt. This card is so fun to play. It's like, out of all of the mana rocks, this one has the most excitement and most fun out of all of the mana rocks, because you're constantly gambling with your life on it, and also you have to be very mindful of how you use it, because the moment that it comes down into play, it's going to potentially lightning bolt you every single turn. So you have to be very strategic with this card, which makes it a lot of fun. The other thing too is that, like, it impacts the board so heavily because, like, it mana accelerates you so well, and you never know how the coin flip's going to go. So, like, I actually have a reputation of getting, like, never getting bolted by this thing. And I mean, I have been bolted by this thing a few times for some games, but I've played multiple games where I would get this out, and I would flip a coin, like, every turn for the rest of the game and never get bolted. That has happened to me multiple times. So I love this card. And then what's really funny is my friend gets upset because he's also had games where he would, like, play it, and he'd flip a coin every turn, and he does get bolted every single turn, and it actually kills him. It's really funny. So this card's a lot of fun. It definitely has a lot of really interesting play value to it. People have fun with it. The whole coin flipping is really interactive and a lot of fun. We also trade coin flips, because, like, when I told you guys one time, like, I, like, was flipping the coin, and I managed to not get bolted by it every turn. And my friend was getting so upset by it that I actually was like, okay, here's what we'll do. I'll let you do the next set of coin flips, just to make you feel more comfortable. And we'll see what happens. And he would flip the coin for me, and I would still never get bolted. And it would make him so mad. It was so damn funny. Next card is Black Vice. This card, unlike the Rack, because I was telling you guys about how the Rack is kind of a miss card, and sometimes it never does anything, Black Vice kills people. This card is so incredibly strong. The best way to play this card for anybody who's seeking advice on the best way to utilize this card, getting this out in the first 3 turns is what's going to make the biggest impact. If you can get this out in the first, like, 2 or 3, 1 to 3 turns, it's going to always work out in your favor. It's a 1-mana artifact that says at the end of target opponent's upkeep, Black Vice deals that player 1 damage for each card in his or her hand in excess of 4. This card can just absolutely destroy people very, very quickly in the very beginning of the game. Highly recommend it. I would, unlike the Rack, I would never take this card out of my cube. I'm debating whether or not to take the Rack out, but the Black Vice is here to stay forever, because this card makes such a humongous impact on how the game is played. It's ridiculous. I tell my best friend that, like, because he gets frustrated by it because he always draws it late, and, like, when he plays it in the late game, it doesn't do very much. But, you know, that's the thing is, like, you have to try to get it in the very early game, because if you don't get it in the early game, it's not going to feel as good. But even if you just play it for 1 mana late game, it might get a couple of points of damage. Maybe it'll get that last damage you really need to get in. You never know. You never know what's going to happen. So, I mean, I love that card. Black Vice is great. I've also owned that card for a long time. It looks. Bo Falcon says that the Larry Niven's disc looks like it's from Revised, so that's good to know. It's hard to check, because like it's the wording that confuses me because I always forget when they got rid of like poly and mono, and I think that Larry Niven's disc is supposed to have mono on it, and I think they got rid of mono in Revised, like mono and poly in Revised. So that's one of the biggest hints, and I think mono and poly was still in Unlimited, which was my first indicator that it was from Revised rather than Unlimited. But then when you read the text, it doesn't, like, explain tapping, and it also doesn't explain the tapped effect until the very end of the text, which is what made me think it was from Unlimited instead of Revised. So it's a little confusing that way. Like, it's hard to tell with Larry Niven's disc. I don't like the disc-type cards. Don't do anything. Hold all your cards, but you're going to have to force my hand to blow up everything. Well, and that's the thing, because sometimes, like, what'll happen is we've actually played games like that before, HellX. And what ends up happening is usually the person who is playing with the disc is the brave guy. So what'll happen is, like, they'll put a disc... Like, I've actually played games like this, and so is my best friend. We'll put down, like, a disc, right? And then, you know, the opponent's like, oh god, I gotta hold all my cards until he blows off the disc. And so, like, he'll have, like, a lack of a board state and a lack of a board state, and he's waiting turns and turns for the disc to go off because he doesn't want to play anything. And you're like, oh, well, I have the disc, you know what? I'm okay with losing this powerful creature, and I'm okay with losing this powerful creature. So then, the person who controls the disc has, like, a better board state and is just, like, attacking and attacking and attacking. And the opponent is so scared because of the disc that they don't want to play anything. But after a while, they get so close, they get killed so hard by the fact that they're not playing anything that they have to start laying down strong things. And then when they lay down enough things, then you let off the disc and you blow everything up. So you blow up the battlefield, you lose some good cards, but your opponent also loses a large portion of their hand. And then you still have cards that you can play because you weren't worried about sacrificing the few powerhouse cards that you did have. So, I mean, here's the thing about Larry Niven's disc, is that you have to look at it like a balance almost, like the white card balance. The opponent is always going to get killed by a balance. Larry Niven's disc is like balance. The opponent is always going to get killed by a balance. You just have to remember that you can always tip the scale in your favor. But the thing is that if you're on the receiving end of a Larry Niven's disc, which is what it sounds like, HellX, you're going to have a bad time and there's nothing you can do about it. The only thing you can do is try everything in your power to keep yourself protected from the current board state while also not losing your hand in the process of protecting yourself. And it's very tough, but I mean, you can do it. But that's the whole point of a Larry Niven's disc, is that that's why it's so strong, is because it does exactly that. That doll is always getting effed up. Yeah, the Black Vice doll. Stuffy. They call him Stuffy. Yeah, Stuffy's pretty messed up. If you guys have ever seen the From the Vault Black Vice, it's like a cage, like a head cage, and they actually have the torn off Stuffy head trapped inside the cage with all the needles in it. It's super weird and creepy. Next card is Isochron Scepter. This card is so interesting in the cube because, so first of all, this card's obscenely strong. I've had this since I played Mirrodin. Powerhouse card. It's a 2-mana artifact that says Imprint. When Isochron Scepter comes into play, you may remove an instant card with converted mana cost 2 or less. Lost focus there all of a sudden. Hold on a second. Converted mana cost 2 or less in your hand from the game. So, and then it copies it. Why is it not focused? There we go. You may copy the imprinted instant card and play the copy without paying its mana cost for tapping 2 and tapping this card. So, first of all, this card is so powerful that it's been reprinted multiple times as rare and mythic rare. This card is obscenely, obscenely strong. And also, it actually has a really interesting impact on my cube and how my cube actually functions. You might have noticed that in when I was going through all the colored spells, there's a pretty decent amount of colored instants that are all 2 mana or less. And no joke, I actually make sure that every color has like about 3 or 4 cards that are 2 mana or less instants. And the sole purpose of those cards, besides the fact that they're really strong, is to feed the Isochron Scepter. That's literally like one of the main things. Whenever I think about putting in a 2-mana instant in any color, I think to myself, like, how is this going to impact Isochron Scepter? And that's actually a major thing about how the instants in my cube work. So Isochron Scepter is a big deal in the cube. It makes a major impact outside of just itself. It's not just important on the artifact itself. It affects every single color in the cube, and I'm always constantly thinking about how Isochron Scepter functions whenever I put in a new 2-mana instant in my cube. It's a big deal. So this card's really powerful, and I highly suggest that if you ever play with one in a cube, think about it the way that I do. Make sure that it has a significant impact on your cube. Whenever you put in a 2-mana instant in your cube, think about how it's going to affect your Isochron Scepter. It's important stuff. You'd be surprised how much of an impact Isochron Scepter makes in the cube. The very last artifact card we have is Loxodon Warhammer. It's an original print from Mirrodin. This is another card I've had for a very long time. You can even see some of the wear and tear it has down here in the corner. It's an old card. I've had it for a long time. I've played with it in a lot of stuff. I think they also reprinted it a few times as a rare because it's so strong. It's a 3-mana artifact equipment with equip 3, and it says equip creature gets +3/+0, has trample, and has whenever this creature deals damage, you gain that much life. This card is so strong. This card helps win games. It can also save you from dying. And that's what's really interesting is because, a lot of the time cards with lifelink and stuff like that, they don't necessarily save you from death. They just kind of, they sometimes feel like they delay the inevitable, or a lot of the time when you play them, they feel like they don't really impact. The kind of life gain that Loxodon Warhammer provides a creature when you're using it is such a big deal, because I've seen games get completely turned around just because of a Loxodon Warhammer. I've seen people who are close to dying, and they would play a Loxodon Warhammer, equip it to the right kind of creature, and start swinging every turn. And not only are they making a severe impact on the life total of the opponent, but they're also gaining life back in a way that is so significant that they were, before they were close to death, and now, 2 turns later, they're nowhere near dying. This card is really fantastic. It makes a major impact, and it's very scary. And when this card was first printed back in Mirrodin, everybody wanted copies of it because of how powerful it was. It was a huge, huge deal. And it's still really strong to this day. You put it on something and you can still feel the impact of how strong this card is. It's great. So guess what, guys? That's all the artifacts. We did all of them. That was the whole stack of 50. Woo! I'm actually kind of tired after that one. I went into a lot of detail on everything, on how all that stuff works, so... Woo! So I'm just going to go ahead and kind of catch up on the chat and see what you guys are talking about, and then we'll probably wrap it up. I'm also going to have some more coffee. Delicious. Very delicious. Let's see. Put a charm on a stick. Yes, the charms are very strong. I actually don't have all the charms in my cube. I have, when it comes to the Ravnica charms, I think I only have one of them. Um, so I actually own every single Ravnica charm. I own every single one. It's just that they're not in my cube because the one charm that is in my cube is really, really strong, and the color combination that has it desperately needs it, like in a form of balance. The color combination that has the one charm from Ravnica really, really needs it for balance reasons. But I actually don't have all the charms in my cube simply because there's not enough space in my gold cards to justify all the charms. Because let me tell you guys, when we actually get to the gold cards, you're going to see some ridiculously powerful cards in there, and the slots for gold cards are very tough to match. It's very hard for me to pull cards out of my gold section, especially when it comes to the charms, because even though the charms are very, very strong, a lot of them are kind of weak compared to the other cards that are actually in my gold card collection. Um, So yeah, Boros charm, if you want to know, it's the Is It charm. The red and blue charm from Return to Ravnica is in my gold cards. That's the only one I have for the charms. But I do own all of them. They're just not all in my cube. Bo Falcon says the disc is a revised version. It has the text centered while unlimited text is left side aligned, if that makes sense. Okay, so it's not unlimited, it's revised, and that's fine. I just thought it was really confusing because the wording on how it taps in that thing looks something like Unlimited would explain rather than Revised, because Revised was a little more updated in explaining how tapping and untapping works. But I also am pretty sure that Unlimited has like poly and mono in it. So like when you see a card that doesn't have the poly and mono like that, it's probably more likely to be revised, and that's what really tells that to me. Um, the Elephant Hammer stacks with lifelink. This is true, Wrath of Wood. This is actually the life gain ability on Loxodon Warhammer is closer to Spirit Link, which is completely separate from lifelink, which means that if you had a creature with lifelink and you put Loxodon Warhammer on it, the two forms of life gain would stack because they actually function differently. So that's actually a very good observation that some people don't actually know. Look up Hot Soup. You'll like the art. All right, I'll take a look at it at the end of the stream. I've never heard of it. It just sounds like an uncard, which is really weird to me. If you say that it's not an uncard, that kind of weirds me out a little bit. Yes, Unlimited also says mono artifact. Revised on a just says artifact. Yeah, that's what I thought. That's kind of what really told me off. But I just wasn't sure. It was because of the clarification text that made me kind of confused. So yeah, I think that's going to be it, guys. I had a great time hanging out with you guys. I think I'm going to go ahead and wrap it up. It seems like you guys are feeling pretty done, and I'm actually tired after that. Like all the concentration and manipulating of cards and speaking non-stop, it kind of tired me out. I will say this, though. Depending on how Cinder Shadow is feeling tonight, um, like, he might just be doing Arena. So I don't know what his plans are tonight. But if Cinder Shadow chooses to do Minecraft again tonight, I might have a Minecraft stream tonight. My Minecraft streams are based on the idea of Cinder Shadow doing Minecraft. I'm not really into the idea of doing it by myself. I think it's more fun for me to have somebody to chat with because, I don't know, Minecraft is a game that I like playing with other people rather than just by myself. So if Cinder Shadow does a Minecraft stream tonight, I will also be streaming Minecraft tonight. If he does just Arena, no Minecraft tonight, okay, guys? So I actually do hope that he does choose to do Minecraft, though, because I'm having a great time playing Minecraft. It's a wonderful game. Helex agrees with me. He says it's the same. It's a social game, and I agree with you, Helex. I really like... I mean, I can play it solo. Sometimes I do. Like, sometimes if I get really focused on a complicated build that I want to do, then maybe, I'll play it solo. But I have so much more fun playing with other people. Like, I've played with Helex, I've played with King's Knight, I've played with Cinder Shadow. And you guys are so fun to play the game with, and it's just like that's the experience that I want to have when I stream. You know, when I stream Minecraft, I want to hang out with you guys and have a good time. And so we'll see, we'll see. Um, so it's not a solo game. Well, I mean, it can be a solo game. It's fine if it is. It's just I prefer it as a social experience. That's how I enjoy it. Um, Bo Falcon says, I gotta get up very early tomorrow, so I will probably miss it. Oh, we'll have fun anyways. Bo Falcon, you can always I leave my streams up just like Cinder Shadow, so it's totally okay, dude. You know what? If you want, like you can always just watch them like while you're working, like later on, or you can come home at night and watch it or whatever. And I can also understand if it's too long and you don't have the time to give up to it. That's totally okay, dude. You just do you and you have a good time and you relax, man. You take it easy. I enjoy having you guys here and doing whatever. So you do whatever works best for you, okay, man? So I'm gonna wrap it up. I kind of explained. Yeah, I know the feeling, Bo Falcon. I'm the same. Don't even worry about it. Um, I'm gonna wrap it up. I've actually decided that my normal ending for my streams is a little bit too wordy and complex, and it's a little intrusive. So I'm simplifying my ending. I'm just gonna say this: for anybody who has not subscribed, if you enjoy my material, please subscribe. Hit that little notification bell so that you can keep updated with all the stuff I'm doing lately. Other than that, follow your dreams, guys, and I will see you in the next stream, whether it's Minecraft or whether it's Cube or cooking or whatever. So, see you guys next time. Bye. Thanks.